All right. Good evening, everyone. It is February 23rd, 2023. Welcome to our revenue budget meeting. I'm going to call to order. This special meeting of Woodstock City Council has been called for the purpose of consideration of the 2023 revenue budget. The meeting is for information and discussion purposes only. No action will be taken as a revenue budget approval is scheduled for the regular meeting on council on March 16th, 2023. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of this meeting will also be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. Now, I'll ask council, any disclosure or conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will do the 2023 revenue budget discussion. Each department head will be making a presentation in the order outlined on the agenda. We will go through the budget booklet page by page, and council will be provided the opportunity to ask a question of staff. We are going to start with museum, and Ms. Houston, if you don't mind coming up. This is on pages 70 to 72 in the councilor's agenda or booklet. Ms. Houston, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me just get this scheduled here. So for the Woodstock Museum, for the 2023 budget, I thought we would start with some of the achievements that had happened in 2022. I know that last year when I did my budget presentation, I was very hopeful that we would get back to some normal sort of revenue and program numbers. And slowly over the course of the year, the programming numbers did return to normal, but it was a slow process. There was a number of weeks in January when there was another closed session. Oh. Hi, I'm just going to keep talking. I work in a museum. I deal with artifacts, not tech. Okay. Basically, what happened is that the return to normal did occur by the end of the year. However, it was a slow process. So for instance, in February, it was very, very slow. We got 454 people the entire month. We got that on Family Day alone this February. So that gives you an indication of how slow last year was. So we're much happier with where we are now. You'll also notice when you're looking through the budget that there are a couple of grants. They're COVID funding. So the reason I'm highlighting this is they were given for that specific purpose. One of them was for UV filters. So it's an in and out grant. You'll see the money go in, you'll see the exact same amount come out on a separate line. And so that was simply to help the air quality in the building. The MAP grant, you will notice that it is for exhibits and operations. Operation grants can be used for anything. So that is problematic in the sense that it was created so that revenue you were losing, this would help with that loss, which means it won't be occurring, I'm assuming, next year. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the future, but it is good for this year, very much so. There was an increase in event and retail sale revenue, which we're glad of, because yes, we have this COVID funding, but we're trying to generate more and get that going for this year as well. And the reopening of the Market Center Theater happened as well, and it had been closed for 2 solid years. It opened in March. The museum collection, of course, is what the museum is there for. We've got 2 lovely examples in the picture. That is Ruth Nesbitt's side saddle. Don't see those every day. Ruth Nesbitt was Wally Nesbitt's mother. She got the saddle in 1904. And it's a lovely example of, you know, the difference between the sexes back in that time period. We also have a great little Santa. It's a Christmas ornament with a mask on. So this is something that came because the people knew we were doing the COVID stories. And it's also a great artifact. In 100 years, people will actually know that it was in everything of what was happening in the year 2022. We had donations, 207 different artifact Donations were requested. We accepted with the Woodstock Museum Advisory Committee, 157 of them. We are working through them now. When we say that they've been added to the database, that means all of their information and photos have been added to the database, which is on our website. And it's a process. So we're not at the end of it, but it is, still February. We will get all 157 done. Two things I wanted to highlight. Something we never want to do in museums, but did have to happen this year was deaccessions. A deaccession is when something is moved out of our collection. We are celebrating our 75th anniversary this year for the museum. And in that time, in the very early years, they didn't have great record keeping. And sometimes they would just say, mouse, black, 4. You're not really sure of any of the history, the provenance, why is that important, anything else. So we had some large objects in our collection that were like that. And of those 157 that came in, there were exact replicas or almost exact, and mainly in better condition and with more information, more provenance. We could actually tie it to Woodstock. So we made the decision to deaccession those objects from the past that did not have history to take the ones that we had. The reason this decision had to be made was the fact that we do not have storage to take duplicates anymore. So this is the decision we had to make, but that is the point we're at. Lastly, on a good news story, the fact is the museum collection web portal. So this is, if you go to the museum's website, over 12,000 people actually just looked at collections, nothing to do with our programs, anything else. These are researchers that are just coming to look at this. And sometimes they want copies of what photos and other things. Sometimes it's just for their information, but that's a jump of 100% over last year. So again, good news. The museum exhibits this year have predominantly been in person. We have found it difficult with the level of staff that we have to do both virtual and in-person exhibits. So we have been focusing on the in-person. We're trying to get people to come into the building. The first one we did was A Village That Straddled the Swamp. This is the Doug Simons book. We took aspects of it where we had artifacts and put them out to tell a broader story that he had covered in the history book. It was also the 25th anniversary of the publishing of the book, so we republished it. And that did very well. It was a really good way to start with the reopening, and it had really good coverage in the media and in the public. So we were glad that we did that. We also worked with the Pride Committee locally and brought in their National Portrait Collection from Toronto and the Little Theatre. It was their 75th anniversary. So it was a nice sort of mix of exhibits this year. Programming, it usually covers both adults and children's program, as well as education, so school programs coming in. So the good news is that we've really been focusing on our adult programming and the camps. The camps, we are now, as of the end of the year, up to our normal numbers and the normal number of weeks. So that's great. The adult program, we're actually doing better than we have. And I think it's because we're focused on them so much. However, the education is nowhere near what it was pre-COVID. Events. We had hoped to do a couple more events this year that did not occur. For one of them was the Christmas home tour. No, it was not going to happen, but the events like the escape rooms were a huge hit. Basically, we had hoped to make like $4,000 and we made over 6. So it was very well attended. And I think people felt more safe. There's 4 people in a room. It's not having to deal with the general public and be out and about. The other thing that was accomplished this year is because we reprinted Doug's book, that was a huge increase, but we also offered them online, and that was something new. So the whole idea that we could ship them wherever you wanted them, t-shirts and our vintage Christmas cards were the same. So that was a hit. So these are the different areas that are changes or I wanted to give a little bit more detail with. So again, with the MAP grant, this is one of the COVID grants. This year in 2023, it is $59,000. When you look at the total of revenue that the museum is making this year, that's a considerable portion of it that next year may not be there. I'm highlighting this because next year you may see an increase in our budget, not due to any of the actual expenses, but because we're making less revenue. So I am explaining this now. Also, that we have the Canadian Heritage Grant. This is the one that was just the follow through. And it was for the UV filters. The other thing that you will see periodically is that we have a grant or a exhibit reserve fund. And so this is for traveling exhibits. So right now we have the Seek exhibit in that was coming from out of town. So that's to cover the expenses. So sometimes you will see that happening and sometimes you won't, but this year you will. Other increases in expenses this year in 2022. The amount that was for part-time wages was the 31. It's going up to 55. Part of that is because of the increase in programming that we're doing, as well as the fact that I am hopeful that we will have more summer students this year and they come out of that. And the other reason it's as low as it is in 22 is because of the interest and sort of feedback from the community, less rentals, things of that nature. So less reason to have our part-time museum attendant in the building. So she wasn't booked. There was more budget. That was simply what we used. The building and repair, the jump in that is mainly due to our humidifiers that we have in the building due to the fact that we are a museum. We have to keep all of the artifacts at their proper levels for humidity. As well as I would say that it will probably be in that range going forward. It is an old building and some of the things that we need done aren't necessarily at a price value that they should be in capital, but they need to be included. So there is that. And then advertising, we are spending less this year. That is simply the change in how that is working with the WOW and where that's coming from. So this year, it is the 75th, like I said, January 28th. We had our tea event, so it was actually on exact date of when the museum started, and it was lovely. People dressed up in the time period. We also showcased the actual exhibit that we had about past curators, and we are hoping to have a few more events happening this summer and fall, and a fundraiser which is actually going to hopefully be some live theater through the building. So that should be fun. We have Sikhs in Canada, 200 year of history. This is a traveling exhibit. We had really good press coverage over the weekend for Family Day. We are also going to be having a speaker coming on March the 29th to do a talk on the immigration patterns of the Sikh community in South Asian in Canada. That'll be happening as well. Also in April, we are going to be starting with the new museum committee, the strategic plan that we will need going forward for our community museum operating grant. That's a grant I get from the province, and they insist that we always update our strategic plans. The fall, we have the Rug Hooking's 50th anniversary. They came in and wanted to do an exhibit. They're very excited. There's going to be the exhibit, the programming. They're going to be teaching courses about rug hooking as well. They'll also be there for Doors Open Woodstock, which is coming up September the 23rd. So this is an event that we started in 2019 and then COVID. You have to have 10 different buildings that are open. We're trying to focus more or less in the downtown. We have already got approval for the Masons Lodge. White Law is going to open one of their doors for part of the building, a number of different buildings. So it should be fun. And then we're hoping, if everything goes according to plan, we're going to start the Christmas home tour in November. And that is pretty much what our plans are. Now, before we move on to the well, I'll just do this as well. 2022 for the Market Center Theater, the building had been closed for 2 years. So when we reopened it in March, there was a lot of cleaning, maintenance, just in the sense of repairing or like replacing light bulbs, you know, things that hadn't been painted, might as well do it now when there's no one in the building, those kinds of things. So that was good. And the Little Theater returned in the spring to sold out performances, Calendar Girls, and that was a huge hit for them in 2023. We've already got 10 weekends booked, and that's through the city. So it's really good. And Dariel is already getting quite a few requests for the fall. So that is everything for me. Any questions?
Thank you so much. I guess we'll start off any general questions before we get going into the pages. And seeing none, we'll start with page 70. Any questions from council? 71, page 71, any questions of council? And 72, I guess, because they're just the totals, so, yeah. 71 and 72. If nobody has one, I do have one. Oh, sorry, okay, Councillor Schonberg, go ahead.
Yeah, from the mayor of Purdue, Karen Houston. I guess it's one question we did talk about at the museum advisory meeting the other day, and that was the what I thought was successful, the wall murals in Museum Square. Would that be an opportunity for anything along those lines to be returning as far as a reduction in advertising budgets?
Your worship, through to the question, the space that we had used for the murals that were in Museum Square, of course, the full area has now gone, but we do have the smaller sort of space. So that is something that we could look at. In the past, when the museum has utilized that space, we have used grant money to do it. And yes, that's always possible. And I think a good space to do something like that. Yes.
Any other questions? I'll just ask mine then. You do have in here for under special events. What exactly is that? An increase of 1,000 to 3,000?
So, your worship, that is actually for the 75th. So
Okay,
that's the
that's
events and the things that we're doing in conjunction with that. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Look at that, you got off fairly easy. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you.
Enjoy your night. Economic development, Mr. Hammond. Now we are on pages 85 to 88 for those watching. Please go ahead.
Great, yeah, crossing my fingers I get off as easy as our friends at the museum.
make sure you
My
don't have
my
that.
name's Brad Hammond, most of you know that. I'm an economic development officer for City of Woodstock. Mr. Magyar sends his regrets. He's in Dubai this week at a show called the Gulf Food Show. Not a vacation, certainly. It's a massive food show that he's there representing us at through our SOMA partners. I think there's 5,000 businesses there and 141 countries represented. So it's quite a, I'm just curious here, why is my presentation on the podium yet not on the screen? Is that something I do? Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. Although it's backwards now. So anyway, Mr. Magyar sends his regrets. You're stuck with me for tonight. So I'll give an overview of our department in general and the work that Lisa and I do as far as traditional economic development. I'll have our small business center speak for themselves, as well as for downtown development officer and physician recruiter, if that's okay. I think they can tell their story a little bit better than I can. So just very high level, starting off, the role of the economic, or the mandate of the economic development office rather, is to encourage and promote balanced economic growth, whether it's commercial or industrial, or even residential growth within the city. The office provides city council with policy alternatives and priorities with the view of creating increased assessment, employment, and social opportunities. So the little hexagons at the bottom of the screen, those are kind of the baskets that you could break what we do into. So certainly business retention is a big part of what we do, based on kind of the salesman's philosophy that it's much easier to keep a customer than go out and find a new one. So we do a number of things through that. We have a business visitation program where we go out and call on industries to see what help we can provide them, or if there's any issues they may be having with the city. Quite often, it's not Len or myself that can solve the problem, but we end up bringing in either other city staff or provincial or federal employees too, if it has to do with a loan program or something like that. So we do a fair bit of work on that. It doesn't get the same amount of profile, I would say, as maybe a new business or something like that, but equally important. We've had a tremendous amount of growth from our existing businesses over the years, and we look forward to more of that. So we're there to help them with that. Business attraction, that's probably the sexier part of economic development, if I could call it that. And that's when we're out going to trade shows and traveling around, meeting with businesses, pitching the city, trying to attract a new business community. It's also probably the most challenging part of the job. As you can imagine, there's many thousands of other communities around the world, just like ourselves, all competing for the same type of investment or the same amount of investment. So very long sales cycles, but happy to say Woodstock has always punched far above its weight when it's come to investment attraction. And we plan to do that for the foreseeable future. Industrial land sales, again, it's a fairly exciting part of the job. City of Woodstock's been involved in selling its own industrial land for about 40 years now. Our first business park was the Petula Ridge Business Park, which was built in the early 1980s. We tell the story at the time, the city council of the day took a leap of faith and spent $1.5 million to acquire the land and service it without ever knowing they might sell any of it to anyone. It's been incredibly successful, quite possibly the best type of investment the city's ever made. We recovered our investment threefold on the land sales alone. There's a payroll from 1,000 jobs in that business park that provides money to be spent within the community every year, and over $1 million in taxes every year come off of that single investment. So it really is kind of the gift that keeps on giving, if you will. Municipal real estate. So this is a little bit different than the industrial real estate that we sell. And it's the municipal real estate really is typically things that we kind of fall into one way or the other. A few examples would be the Reg Hall building across the street, where the city acquired it through failed taxes and had the job to sell it, which we did through tender. And we'll be doing the same thing soon with the former Woodstock Hydro building. Downtown development has always been a big part of the Economic Development Office. Unfortunately, it was done off the corner of someone's desk for a while, and I'm happy to say that we've kind of made a quantum leap forward in the last 4 months in hiring the city's first downtown development officer. So I won't steal Carrie's thunder, but you'll hear a little bit more from her soon. Film attraction is a relatively new venture for the Economic Development Office. Quite frankly, in the past, we didn't have a lot of inquiries from the film industry, but you may remember a couple of years ago, there was a production here called Lock and Key. And since then, we've had more inquiries. So it became clear to our department, we need to develop more of a film attraction strategy to proactively go out and try to attract this type of activity in this city rather. It's not only about kind of the civic pride of having, something filmed in your community and the excitement that we saw on Dundas Street around that, but it's actually the spin-off effects from that. There was several $100,000 rather spent within the community on hotel rooms and services and catering and things like that. So the economic investment that we'd see in the community from film attraction can be quite significant. Physician recruitment is also something that's new to our department. It's been, we got involved in it in November of 2018, I think. The reason we did was it was quite clear there's a shortage of family physicians in Woodstock, as in many communities around Ontario. And at the time, the one thing we realized, those communities that were being successful to attract new family doctors were the ones that had a dedicated, qualified family physician recruiter that understood the funding models and all of the intricacies involved, and was able to go out there and speak to potential new physicians on their terms. So you'll also hear from Christy Hans, who's our physician recruiter. She's been with us since, I think it was November of 2018, and really done a fabulous job. Speaking to other communities, we were told we shouldn't expect any new doctors probably from our efforts for 3 or 4 years at least, and Christy surprised us all. So we'll look for more for that. And other duties assigned. There seem to be a lot of things that fall into our department that really don't fit under any other department, but you could make an argument it's got some connection to the city's economic health or economy. So so we end up doing it, and we also like taking on a challenge. So maybe we don't know how to say no. Our department fortunately is small enough that I can show all of our staff on one screen. Mr. Magyar there at the top, Len's been with the city, I think about 36 years now. And him and I are like, I guess, an old married couple in some ways. I've been with the city 20 years, and in many ways we work hand in glove and finish each other's sentence. So it's really a great situation that when one of us is out of the office, the other one can cover off quite easily. Lisa Lam is our administrative assistant. So Lisa keeps Len and I in line, as well as provides support to our downtown development officer. She also covers off for the mayor and CAO secretary when needed. Sean McNamara and Brenda Tate work in our small business center. They're going to tell you a little bit more about what they do there in the coming minutes, hopefully. And finally, Christy Hans, she's our physician recruiter. Christy actually works remotely, so she doesn't have an office at City Hall. So you're less likely to see her around City Hall when you're here. But she does good work. And her job, I would have described it a while ago. It was like finding a needle in a haystack, trying to find a new family physician. She'll talk about some of the new challenges that the province has introduced this year, which has made it more like finding a needle in a pile of needles. So a lot of what we do, before I get into what we've done last year and plan to do next year, is really based on the power of our partnerships. We're a small office compared to many other departments in many other cities, but we're able to accomplish an awful lot through partnerships. So I've used this icon of the kind of the old world nesting dolls to depict what our department is. And with the nesting dolls, as you know, is every time you lift one off, oh, there's another one there, oh, and another one. And that's a little bit like our department, because when we're here in the city of Woodstock, we're Woodstock Economic Development, and that's how people identify us. But when we're at a trade show in Canada or somewhere else in Canada, we're actually the Oxford Connection, and the Oxford Connection is funded by the County of Oxford. They give us about $50,000 every year to encourage the economic development offices from Ingersoll and rural Oxford and Tillsonburg to cooperate, I guess, on activities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. So when we're in Canada trying to attract investment, we're the Oxford Connection. But when we're outside of Canada, when we're abroad, we're known as the Southwestern Ontario Marketing Alliance. And that's the banner that Len is under while he's in Dubai this week. And it's really geared toward creating leads. So it's not toward attracting investment, but it's generating the leads for the member communities to follow up on. And try to attract the investments to their communities. So if Mr. Magyar has a meeting this week with a company that's exhibits some interest in investing in Canada, they'll bring the meeting notes back. They'll share those notes with all of our SOMA partners, which includes Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, Perth County, St. Thomas, and Stratford. So there's 6 of us. The partnership's been around since 2019, and we share those leads. And at that point, it's up to us to duke it out with our friends, I guess. We call it friendly competition or co-opetition, but that's really what it is. When we're trying to attract investment from abroad, the greatest challenge is trying to convince them to think about Canada or Ontario first. And quite frankly, the best problem we could have is having to fight amongst ourselves is whether they land in Ingersoll or Woodstock or where have you. So good problem to have. But the nesting dolls don't stop there, because we're not always SOMA either when we're abroad. We also, through SOMA, belong to a group called the Ontario Food Cluster, which is a sector-specific group for attracting foreign direct investment. It includes 12 partners from across the province that all have an interest in attracting food processing companies. Or if we're not attracting food processing, it's more advanced manufacturing. We call ourselves OMCA, which is the Ontario Manufacturing Communities Alliance. Both of these groups have been around since 2008 timeframe. So that's a long way to say through all of these partnerships. Last year, we were represented at 11 different trade shows around the world. Mr. Magyar and myself weren't required to be at those shows. We were at a few of them, but we did get the leads from all of those shows. Approximately 200 last year came from our trade show activity. The earlier part of the year, we were doing online meetings, which thankfully that's ended, because it's a little harder to strike up rapport through your computer screen versus having a coffee with someone. We also had a FAM tour which stands for familiarization tour. With our Oxford Connection partners, we had 40 lead generators visit Oxford County and tour around to see what benefits the county had to offer. So those were things like realtors, provincial representatives, contractors rather, or business developers from some of the larger contracting businesses rather, and the type of people that may bring us a client that wants to buy a piece of land off us and move their business here. All of our partnership activity has two great benefits. First of all, it leverages the city of Woodstock's money. So our membership fee to be a member of SOMA is $30,000 annually. It's going up to $33,000. First increase in 20 years this year. But for our $33,000, we leverage a budget of over $500,000 for attracting foreign direct investment. So we're able to reach much further than we could on our own and be represented in much more areas than we could on our own. The other benefit of the partnerships is most federal government funding programs for investment attraction have a strong preference toward partnerships versus funding in individual communities. So we're able to attract more funding through the federal government, Industry Canada, as well as the province's RED program. So what did we do in 2022? Within our office, in addition to those leads that were generated at trade shows, we fielded 157 separate inquiries, either by telephone or by walk-in. We sold 26.7 acres of city-owned industrial land for $4.45 million. And I'll talk a little bit more about industrial land in two slides, but you'll notice quite a difference in terms of the sales volumes we're expecting for this year. We completed a $355,000 skills development fund project with other local partners. The partners in that were Fanshawe College, Community Employment Services, Literacy Link Southwest, as well as the Workforce Training and Development Board. And that was a provincial program where we received the money to deliver this program, Skills Development Fund. It was really geared toward getting underemployed people or unemployed people to either consider careers in the skilled trades or perhaps starting their own business. It was a one-off. It was a one-year program. The Skills Development Fund didn't continue in the same way. So that will have an impact on the small business center's budget. That money was was a flow through. We did receive an administrative fee of somewhere between 10 and 15% for managing it and managing the project. So that will have an impact on the small business center. But the balance of the money was money in, money out to our partners to deliver services for this. We also attended the Canadian FDI Forum, or Foreign Direct Investment Forum, in Montreal. So that was a conference that was attended by site selectors from across North America. Site selectors is a term which is a little bit more than a realtor. It's someone specifically that they're hired by companies to find a site that meets certain criteria. Usually for larger companies, Fortune 500 companies, and they're compensated based on the best deal that they're able to get for their client. We've dealt with site selectors in the past in Woodstock, and they drive a bit of a hard bargain. The good news is the investments that they're bringing are usually exceptional in terms of the companies. I've already talked about the FAM tour we held. We did complete our downtown streetscape master plan, happy to say, and I know you're all aware of that through the capital budget that you've already dealt with. There's money appearing in there now. So that was a pretty big initiative, and happy we were able to do that. Negotiated shared services agreement with our BIA. So the hiring of our downtown development officer was coincidental with the manager of the BIA retiring. So we had good negotiations with the BIA, and we both agreed it makes more sense to use the same person to not only represent BIA management, but also economic development for the city of Woodstock. So Ms. Jarvie, she represents both sides of the house, I guess. But the interests are one and the same for the BIA and the city of Woodstock when it comes to downtown development. We believe it's a one of a kind in Ontario, certainly, that we searched high and low for someone else's agreement we could borrow. No one seemed to have it. So we kind of feel that others are going to take notice, and we're already getting questions about kind of the details behind the agreement. On that note, we also hired Woodstock's very first downtown development officer. Again, that's something that's fairly unique in Ontario, but it was clear to us there's more than enough work in the downtown to not only sustain what's already in our downtown, but to look at improving it and encouraging more investment that will ultimately make the downtown more vibrant. Mr. Irby she'll talk in a minute about the results she's already had in 4 months. We leased 16 Grant Street, or the former Hydro building, to Elections Ontario. Oddly enough, I got a question from them the other day about from Elections Canada, rather, that sounds like they may need a building too, but unfortunately I informed them that we are planning on selling the building this year, so probably will not be available for them. So last year we really readied the building for sale, which consisted of doing environmental testing on the property to determine if it was contaminated and where the contamination was and the level of contamination. And that was really pretty important information to have to get ready to sell it. That will have an impact on value in terms of what people are prepared to pay. So our view was to remove the unknowns and be able to provide the information in terms of what they should expect. And they can base their offers accordingly on that. We also initiated a film attraction strategy for Woodstock. So we just kind of got into the last stages of that toward the end of 2022. Ms. Magyar, or Ms. Lama, rather. Whoa, Ms. Lama. I know Lisa's watching, so I'll apologize. Ms. Lama from her office is largely going to take the lead on that project in terms of developing a package that can really take and promote Woodstock as a location for filming to take place. And finally, we sold various small lots, and it's a fairly minor thing to say, and the only reason I included it on this slide is that it is surprising. The smaller the lot, the more work is involved. So we sold some abandoned walkways that had never been used. We were involved with 6 homeowners, and to sell a parcel of land that you probably could not park a car on took as much or more effort than selling 100 acres of industrial land. So we do those things because it helps out citizens. It does get rid of surplus land from the city's inventory and does remove liability. But we typically, those small lots, we don't go looking for them when people come to us and say the city owns a piece of land behind me that's not used. Could I possibly buy it? We take a look at it for them. But anyway, just wanted to make the point that there are lots and lots of work. Priorities for 2023, again, on top of everything we already do with our development partners, we're expecting to sell 40 acres of city-owned industrial land on Pattullo Avenue through an RFP process. We have 85 acres in total that we can sell there. Before we can sell it all, we do need to generate some cash to pay some more grading work that needs to take place on the property. The reason we're choosing to sell it through an RFP process is Len and I have been telling people for 2 or 3 years now that we'll be selling it next year, but this is actually the year that we're going to sell it. And as a result, we've created quite a list of people that have a clear interest in buying the property, probably 10 times the amount of land that we actually have to sell. So City Council will be in a very unique position this year, that they'll be able to evaluate all of the proposals we receive and make a decision in terms of who to move forward with an agreement of purchase and sale based on what's in the city's best interest. It's rare for a community to be in that situation, and we've never been in it before, but we expect we will be this year. So it's a great opportunity for the city of Woodstock. We're hoping to finally complete the rezoning of 760 Juliana. So 760 Juliana was the former Cedar Creek Golf Course. It's been vacant for a few years now. A project we took on. We felt that rather than just selling it as open space and taking our chances to see what we might get for it, we thought it's in the city's best interest to rezone it for high density residential. That's clearly the highest and best use for the property. It will generate not only more assessment for the city and a higher resale or higher sale value for the property rather, but it also provides us some level of control in terms of what actually will happen on that property. So that's been a long process. It's involved a lot of twists and turns involving things like flood limits and flood mapping and our conservation authority, as well as servicing issues and so forth. So hoping before too many more weeks to be bringing a rezoning application before City of Woodstock to rezone about 6 acres of that land for high density residential. and then we'll put it out for sale through RFP. We're also hoping, or we know we are selling 625 Parkinson Road. There'll be a report actually on the very next council agenda for that property. It's a small residential lot that's near Southside Park. There was a hydro transformer on it at one point, and it's the hydro transformer's gone and it's surplus to our needs. So we no longer need to own it. We're hoping to generate more housing stock there by selling that. So you'll see a report on the next council agenda for that. We also hope to sell 16 Graham Street this year. We'll be putting it out for tender again any day now. And we'll leave it out for about 8 weeks to expose it to market and ask for proposals in terms of what people wish to do with the property if they buy it. That property is a little bit unique. We will be putting covenants on it that require people to build within a certain amount of time and meet certain performance covenants. And finally, we expect to be selling 453 Dundas Street, which is where our small business center is located now. As you're aware, through capital budget, we're renovating the market building behind us here to create space, not only for our small business center, but our HR department as well. So when it becomes more clear that the move is imminent, we'll put the property up for sale and put it to another use. A change from the past, I would say, is that we're going to be dealing more and more with private landowners. For a long time, City of Woodstock dominated the industrial land market in Woodstock, and in that we own nearly all of the industrial land. That is definitely no longer the case anymore. But the good news is we do have some large private sector developers here, Broccolini Developments, Melrose Developments, that have a clear interest in putting up a decent amount of coverage on their property and attracting kind of A-level tenants to the community. So we'll work with them in answering any questions we can to help better market their property. Another initiative this year will be amending Woodstock's community improvement plan. It was first introduced in its current form in 2011, and it's at the point now where we'd like to grow it a little bit. Specifically, we'd like to grow it to include provisions for physician recruitment, to provide forgivable loans to new physicians coming to Woodstock. You might ask, why would we be providing a forgivable loan to a physician? Well, the fact of the matter is our competitors are doing it. It's an incredibly competitive market. And I think people have visions that family physicians make nothing but money, but the reality is they've got negative cash flow for 6 to 9 months when they set up a practice in the city. So they've got a lot of money going out and no money coming in. And because all of our competitors are doing it, we feel that it's the right thing to do if that's what lands us a new family physician. We'll also make some minor revisions to that as related to affordable housing. And finally, now that COVID has finally moved into another phase, I guess is the way to say it, we're hoping to reactivate our business visitation program. Quite frankly, for the last 3 years, not too many people were interested in having us come into their business and talk to them. That has changed. Face-to-face meetings are now much more common, and we want to get back to that because that's where we develop our best relationships, quite frankly, with our businesses. Land sales, quite quickly, 2 charts on the screen here. The one on the right talks about the number of acres we've sold. You can see in a typical year, we're selling somewhere between 20 to 30 acres and generating somewhere between $3 to $5 million in sales. And that's a typical year. Land sales are slightly increased for next year by 25%, but you can see a monumental jump in the amount of revenue we expect to get off of those land sales. That cause is the reason behind that rather is that industrial land is worth significantly more than it was even 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, we were selling our city industrial land for somewhere between $150,000 per acre and $180,000 per acre. And quite frankly, that was about where the market was. City tends to sell a little bit below market, but the reason we do that is because we attach restrictions to our property. You have to build within a certain amount of time, and if you don't, there's a penalty. And one of the penalties is that we could take the property back at a loss. So that's where the market was even a couple of years ago. Like the housing market, the industrial land market has exploded, and really the going rate for industrial land in the Woodstock area right now is about $510,000 per acre. As you move toward Kitchener, Brantford, it's $600,000 an acre, and KW area, it's $1 million an acre. So they've also experienced the same type of growth. So based on the market factors, we're expecting kind of in that $450,000 to $500,000 per acre range for the land that we put on the market. The one wild card in that process, obviously, is that there's talk of recession, their interest rates have gone up now, and whether that will cool off any of the interest that we've seen. We really won't know until we expose it to the market. Into the exciting part of the budget now, a few lines I just want to highlight that are changing by a fair amount. The line that changes the most significantly is changing in the correct direction. So it's a revenue line. It's related to our industrial land sales, and it's increasing from $4 million projected last year to over $20 million this year. So that represents a $16 million increase on that line, but it is a revenue line. So it is money coming in. The sole reason for that is that we expect to offer the Petula Ridge industrial lands for sale sometime later this spring. A corresponding expenditure line to the land sales is costs related to land sales. So costs related to land sales goes toward things like preparing surveys and paying real estate commissions. So we expect a number of the properties anyway to be represented by a licensed realtor. When a realtor is involved in the transaction, like other communities, we do offer a commission. Meetings and luncheons, our meetings and luncheons account is up from $5,000 to $6,500, so $1,500 increase. Again, that's really an impact of COVID declining and more people wanting to meet for lunch and go out for lunch. Another factor for that line is inflationary pressures. If you've eaten at a restaurant in the last 8 months, you know what I mean when I say that, I guess. Another line that's increasing is publicity and public relations. It's actually gone up by $5,000. Twofold reason behind that. The first reason is that we maybe cut things a little bit too tight last year. And you'll notice in the statements from the end of the year that we actually went over budget by a fair amount in that account. The other factor is that we're going to Japan. Typically our trade missions to Japan. We're taking gifts to give to the Woodstock companies that are headquartered in Japan. Gift giving is very big in the Asian culture, and it's the right thing to do. So we typically take local artwork or something that has a local connection to give as a gift. And you know, when you're visiting with 8 or 10 companies, that can add up. Our advertising budget, I'm happy to say, has actually gone down by $10,000 this year. The reason for that is we're basically all out of traditional print advertising right now. We did a little bit of it even last year, but I think that the ship has really sailed on print advertising. It was incredibly expensive to do, probably $7,000 to $9,000 Canadian per ad for a full-sized ad in a site selection journal. And frankly, there's more effective ways to market now through social media and online digital. Next line, downtown marketing plan. That is really so it's down by 21,000. We're still carrying 58,850. That's money that was carried over that'd been budgeted from last year that we didn't spend. It's an $80,000 project for the downtown marketing plan. It will be done in the next month or so. The good news is we are going to receive about 50% of that back through the RED program, or the OMAFR's Rural Economic Development Program. However, we don't get the money back until after the project's complete. But that project will be finalized in another month. Conferences and seminars has gone up by $1,500. Really, again, it's reflective of inflationary prices. If you had to rent a hotel room recently, it's shocking how expensive they've become. But even if, you know, fairly modest hotel room in Toronto, you're still looking $200 to $300 at least, depending what else is going on in the city. Our Oxford Connection trade show travel, it's actually down $4,000. Largely the reason for that is all of the trade shows we're going to with that group this year are in the city of Toronto. So we have no trips to Montreal as we did last year. And finally, our SOMA trade show and travel account, again, it's going up by almost $10,000, $9,700. That again is solely related to the mission in Japan that will be taking place in the fall of this year. So I've blathered on long enough, I know. Thank you for your patience, but I am happy to welcome any general questions or questions related to the line items. When I practiced that today, it was much shorter, by the way. Stuff.
I won't even comment to that. No.
Okay. I am also shorter, yes.
No, I wasn't. Moving along. Questions of council. we'll start before we get into now. How did you want to do this with it kind of broken up? Were you gonna answer questions on each of the line items, or were we gonna call up staff? Like,
So I hate to tell you, but our other staff will come up and present their
Yeah, that's what I
departments and
figured.
they
Yes.
can answer for their lines.
yeah, so I think what I'll do, if it's okay with council, invite everybody up. And then, unless there's something specifically for Mr. Hammond at this point, you answered all three of my questions through your slides there, so I'm good myself, if everybody else was good. All right, then next up, we will ask, Mr. Irvine. Yes, sure, please. So downtown development, and this is on page 86 specifically. Welcome.
Hello. Just a second for my slide presentation. It's on here, but it's not up there. Oh, it's backwards. Need to do a little flip.
Jeff, can you do a flip for us, please? Thank you.
There we go. Your worship and members of council. My name is Carrie Jarvie. I am your downtown development officer. This is my budget lines that I'll be speaking to this evening. This is a new role, so I don't have to compare to 2022, which is kind of, I guess, a gift for me this year. But I would like to highlight the role of the downtown development officer. So this is actually verbatim what I applied to. So this is what I thought is really interesting, is that my role is to put a bow on all of the previous work that has been done for your downtown. So things like the downtown development plan, your community improvement plan, streetscape master plan. My role is to put everything together and to really move us forward downtown. The downtown development plan outlined specifically the need for staff support that was dedicated to downtown. And I will remind you that I did just start November 1st. So I'd like to go into a little bit more depth on the shared services agreement. I know Mr. Hammond spoke to this. It is a unique agreement between a BIA and a municipality. I am on the provincial board for the Ontario BIA Association, so I believe in BIAs. I believe in their mandate. A lot of BIAs struggle with their municipality. Downtown Woodstock BIA has had a lot of support from the municipality over the years, and I think this is really showing that we want to work together as a municipality and a BIA. So there's a lot of eyes on us, especially with my BIA counterparts that are really interested in how this works. I think that it is, so 50% of my job is to support the BIA. I will go into more with that on my priorities. So we did receive a rural economic development grant. So one of my priorities has been to work with the consultants to create the recruitment and retention marketing plan. So we've worked with consultants that this will be ready for launch at the end of March. It has provided us with an incredible amount of research on detailed vacancies, business clusters, statistics, robust demographics, and information that we're very excited to be able to put to use to be able to to attract and retain the businesses that we have. They did personalized interviews with many of our businesses downtown, including a lot of our newer businesses. So really got to see the enthusiasm, see where maybe we could have improved in the past, and really be able to create marketing material that will be accessible and really be able to get in a lot more new businesses.
that will include a new downtown website, targeted assets, and will give me the flexibility to go out and target new businesses and help getting them into the right spot. I'll be working with the interdepartmental steering committee on the streetscape plan. Mr. Hammond and I hit send yesterday on another rural economic development grant in order to, in hopes of getting some more money for the streetscape plan. One of the few people I dream about new waste receptacles. So I'm optimistic. I think it would be great to be able to really show that we were, this red grant, we were able to apply for a stream, that we had all of the past planning documents ready to go, so that we have something that we are already going out for an RFP. So I think we should be in good shape. The other thing that we would like to do is increase our activations downtown. I may be coming back in a future meeting of council to ask for some little capital expenditures, because there's an opportunity for us to buy a stage for Museum Square. And this would allow us to do a lot more programming, be able to save money both through special events and through the downtown budget and through the BIA budget. It will also be able to allow community partners to activate the space with just us opening up a stage. It also gives us a very great opportunity to do some really pretty branding. And the next priority is to coordinate existing and new CIP loans and grants. Depending on who you are, I'm either your favorite person or your least favorite person, because as Mrs. Campbell mentioned on Tuesday, I'm tidying up our CIP applications. Due to COVID, a lot of people had construction delays. They've had a lot of issues. So I've been following up with anybody who has an existing CIP application, seeing if they need help, if there's something we can do. Is there something that they are ready to go with receipts, or is there something else that we can follow up? Because once we free up the money that is allotted to them, then we would be able to go forward with more CIP applications. I like to say priorities, the effective coordination of city services with the BIA. I think that I've really been able to help them with some strategic direction, and they have one point of contact. So it really is helpful for them, and it's as a board and as an organization, it's also helpful for our city, my city partners, my city colleagues, to be able to have one person that they're directing concerns to. So that has been really, I know it's been beneficial for me to learn, my counterparts, but it's also, I think, been very helpful for the BIA. And I think it will be more effective for them as they go forward. And we're really trying to grow the reach of the BIA through social media. The BIA has such a really strong community of businesses. We now need other people to realize how strong and amazing they are. So that's really the initial push. So in my 4 months, just shy of, I've met with over 50 downtown businesses and community organizations, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it does actually seem like a lot, because it's actually 1/6 of the businesses in our area. I've created priorities and processes for the BIA. We've been very strategic and really working on implementing cost-saving measures and really making sure that they have the strategy they need to go forward and really flourish. Addressing some of the challenges that had been experienced in the past with dealing with the BIA. We have started a grant program because due to our bylaw, anybody who does a market in their business has to pay, go through the bylaw process, which is totally normal, and receive a permit. We have a grant through my budget that allows them to do that market without having to pay out of pocket. So really, if somebody is doing something that's going to increase vibrancy downtown, it gives us a really great way to support that. And improved communication with property owners is what I will leave you with, because I sent postcards to 17 vacant property owners, and I heard from 5 of them. And I am very proud of that, because I expected to hear from none. So really just wanted to reach out to them, see if they knew about CIP programs, said, hey, I'm new. Do you need help with rentals? Do you need help with, what do you need help with? And so I thought hearing from 5 was a pretty good success. So I'm now open to any questions.
Thank you. So questions of council. Again, we are on page 86. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Harvey, this is just a terminology.
Yes.
You said CIP,
Yes.
correct? What is that an acronym for? Just, I mean, I've heard it in many other languages and ways too. So just for clarifying for everybody, maybe to help out.
Your worship, to the councilor's question, my apologies. Community Improvement Program. We actually have a very robust one.
Yes,
We have an excellent downtown community improvement program.
Yeah, we do. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so Mr. McNamara can't speak. No. Blame Brad. Yeah, Brad used it all up.
Oh, your worship, you're stealing my thunder.
Sorry.
My
small
opening line
business
was,
center.
I'm often accused of speaking or talking so I could hear myself speak.
I would
And you
never
beat-
say that.
I'm saying it, so I beat you to it. Good evening, everyone. Wait for my presentation to come up. Do I have to? Oh, there it is. So most of you know us. Most of you have in part participated or been visitors to the Small Business Center. But as a refresher, it's important that you know who we are and what we do. So the Small Business Center is an ongoing economic development partnership between the province of Ontario, the city of Woodstock, and Oxford County. And we proudly serve the diverse and talented communities of Woodstock and throughout Oxford County. And we're committed to helping all small businesses and are eager to help them plan, execute the steps that are needed to achieve success, because we offer free guidance, free resources, free local connections, business coaching and accountability, mentoring, professional service referrals, workshops, and networking events to help each client to explore, connect, succeed in their business endeavors. One of the things that we offer and have offered for the last couple of years is grant programs. We have two specifically. One of them is Summer Company, and it is a program that provides students aged 15 to 29 startup money to kick off a new summer business, as well as as well as providing advice and mentorship from local business leaders to help them get up and running. Applicants start their process typically in and around May. And they usually begin their programs once school is over, so typically in July. They typically wrap it up by Labor Day, but they can choose to continue their business on beyond the summer. Some of them even suspend their businesses and actually pick them up the following summer. What we do for these applicants is we give them $15,000 up front. And as we move through the program throughout the summer, which is administered by Brenda Tate, my coworker, we get to the Labor Day weekend, and then they receive their final $1,500 upon successful completion of the program. So total funding for Summer Company is $3,000. Our 2022 gross revenue generated by our 5 Summer Company students was in the neighborhood, well, actually, it probably exceeded $84,237. A number of these businesses are going to continue. These are sustainable businesses for these students. So that was a huge achievement in 2022. Our other grants that we offer is called Starter Company Plus. It's an Ontario government program, as well as Summer Company, that provides adults 18 plus with the resources and knowledge that they need to start and grow their own business. The program offers training and business skills development, advice and mentorship from local business leaders and our office, and a grant, if successful, of $5,000. These are only 4 of our 2022-23 grant recipients to date. So local businesses, all of which are exceptional. One of the other things that we offer is networking. We have a networking with purpose that we do, we did prior to COVID. We're hoping to resurrect this year, and we're looking to do it at least 3 times in the 2023 calendar year. but we also hold our annual Bridges to Better Business event. And in the past year, we were very, very lucky to secure Haley Wickenheiser, Dr. Haley Wickenheiser, as our keynote speaker. And it was exceptional. And it's a great networking event. Her message was really insightful. There's a lot of similarities that you can draw between her experience in sports and medicine to the world of business. And I have not spoken to anybody who walked out of the event not feeling like they got their money's worth or learned a whole lot and were inspired. So we're really, really happy with the success of that event. We're really, really, really big with our community partners. We really, really enjoy working together. We are proud. We're proud members of Oxford County and the business community. We work with all 5 chambers of commerce, the 4 BIAs, Community Futures, Tourism Oxford, Rural Oxford Economic Development, Community Employment Services, Fanshawe College, and we are currently working with a number of the high schools in Oxford County to put together programming in person to make sure that any of their business, high skills, major business programs have help and support from our office. In the past couple of years, one of the things that we identified that maybe our office wasn't doing very well was a lot of community outreach. People were coming to us, which was great, but we also help existing businesses with any expansion that they might want to engage in. And so they're actively engaged in their business. They can't leave their businesses to come to us. So we developed a program called SBC Live, where we are looking to expand our relationships with Oxford County businesses. These are on-site visits to local businesses, 1 to 2 days per week, 52 weeks out of the year. We work with community partners and various municipalities to address the specific needs of businesses in those municipalities and the individual businesses themselves. To date, 461 individual businesses were connected with through SBC Live at the end of 2022. One of the most important things that we have learned as a result of this community outreach and engagement is that a lot of these businesses feel incredibly isolated. That may be because a lot of them are literally singing for their supper every single day, but they are extremely isolated. And our marketing logo has changed. Our engagement motto is now, "You are not alone. Make us your first call," so that we are here to support you. Our 2022 outreach, our final numbers are in. We engaged 853 unique clients, supported 343 existing or conceptual businesses, and assisted 78 actual business startups or expansions. Brenda and myself conducted 2,114 new or repeat in-person or remote meetings, consultations, or engagements. And we define, the government defines, because we are largely financed by the province of Ontario, they define an engagement as any client interaction over 30 minutes. So you meet with somebody for an hour, those are 2 engagements. We've broken it down by municipality. City of Woodstock, as you might expect, proportionate to population, is 43% of our actual engagements. I did mention just previously our core funding, 63 or 64% of our funding for the budget actually comes from the province of Ontario. We get 50,000 from the County of Oxford, greatly appreciated. And the City of Woodstock is typically 18 or generally makes up the difference depending on the year, depending on the budget. Our 2022 budget versus our 2023 budget. This is my first budget as manager. Last year's budget was not mine, but it's important to point out a couple of different distinctions between maybe some other budgets that you see from departments within the city. Our provincial funding, again, that 64% piece, has a different fiscal calendar than the city does. So it runs from April the 1st to March the 31st of each year. So we have a 3-month tail that comes from the province that goes from January the 1st to March the 31st. So there is an overlap. In January of 2022 through to March 31st of 2022, and Mr. Hammond's already referenced this, we wrapped up a couple of different programs that were one-time funding that had an impact on our revenue that were flow-throughs. So we wrapped up a provincial pilot program that was we called it At the Crossroads, but it was the Skilled Trades Support Program. There's also a program called Digital Main Street, of which we were a part. We decided not to participate anymore. It became too labor intensive. And then we also had the Provincial Small Business Center COVID-19 Recovery Program, which discontinued at that point in time as well. That did have an impact on the revenue for 2022 relative to our revenue of 2023. And all of these programs had dedicated timeframes for delivery and service. And because they're now wrapped up accordingly, and they appeared as revenue and expenses in the 22 budget, it's important to remember that all were temporary. It does not impact, in a lot of ways, our core funding. It doesn't actually affect our provincial core funding at all, or our ability to deliver our core mandated services, which were all of the things that I mentioned in the first slide. And again, because approximately 64% of this budget is funded by the province, it is worth noting to everyone that we are governed in large part by the Ministry of Economic Development, and we actually have to report all of our budgeting numbers and our KPIs each quarter, and we are subject to regular audits by the province as well. So anyways, that's my presentation in general. Certainly, I have no problems reviewing line items in the budget. If anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Any questions of council? Again, we are talking on pages, sorry, we are duplicate pages, 89 to 91 specifically is for Mr. McNamara. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, through the chair. I noticed that your WSIB rates are going down slightly, which gives me pause because every little blue tab in my budget binder is WSIB that is going up in every other department. So I'm wondering if this is something unique to the city and separate for the small business center, or if.
Sure, your worship through to council. That is a question for Treasury, I believe.
Your worship, through the council's question, the budget is down, but it's up from actual.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through the chair to Sean, on page 90, special events. I can read the code unless you can see it there. 0802-842-36-0650. It says that there was 7,000 spent and then the budget is for 8,000. Are you hoping to do more events or?
Yeah, actually, sorry, your worship through to council. This was what we were hoping for, was to resurrect, for lack of a better word, our networking with purpose events last year. And so again, the 2022 budget was set not by me, but with the hope that we would be able to do that. Obviously, that never came to fruition. We are definitely looking to do it, and I think we're going to have no problems doing it in 2023. There is an inflationary factor that I wanted to put in there just to be on the safe side. Again, we tend to like to utilize all of the different communities in Oxford County. If we're going to do a networking with purpose, we'd like to do one in Tillsonburg. We'd like to do one in Ingersoll. We'd like to do one in Woodstock. If we can do one just outside of Woodstock in a centralized area. But hospitality, we've seen our costs through even Bridges to Better Business, how they've gone up. So if we're going to be utilizing third-party spaces to host these events, we just wanted to make sure that there was a bit of an inflationary cushion put in there, but that would be the only difference.
Speaking of Bridges to Better Business, I want to know how you're going to top Dr. Wickenheiser. That was excellent, just for the record. For somebody that did not or was not able to attend, that was really well done.
Through to your worship, we have a couple of irons in the fire. One of the problems of holding an event like that with a name of that caliber and stature, prior to Dr. Wickenheiser, back in 2019, we had Michelle Romanow, one of the dragons from Dragon's Den, and she was certainly a very popular draw. But again, one of the dangers of, perpetually elevating the bar, if you will, is you reach a ceiling. So we are trying to negotiate currently with a couple of different individuals who we think would be appropriate. You also don't want to box or pigeonhole yourself into just getting business people or athletes. It's a pretty diverse array of people that could come and speak and make their message applicable to small business owners and the community alike. So no, we're going to hold that a little bit close to the vest until we have things lined up, but we are definitely working diligently to try and find someone of an equal caliber, let's say.
I think Councillor Schanberg was putting his hand up. He'll go and speak. If, no, Councillor Schanberg.
Oh, is the cat out of the bag?
And I'll take less than what Dr. Wickenheiser got paid. No, it was a very, very good to bring her in, so I don't want to downplay that. As a longtime Maple Leafs fan, for starters. But my question through the mayor to Mr. McNamara, but it also might be to Treasury or to our CAO. If the County of Oxford is giving $50,000 through their budget to your program every year, which makes sense because obviously a lot of your clients are not City of Woodstock future or current business people. The City of Woodstock taxpayers aren't in essence paying twice, are we? Because obviously a portion of taxpayers coming to the City of Woodstock monies then goes to the County of Oxford. So maybe something the Treasury or the CAO might be able to best answer because we make up more than 40% of the population.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schanberg. Yes, that would be correct, that the City of Woodstock funds between 38–40% of the county levies. So any county money is partially derived from City of Woodstock taxpayers, City of Woodstock assessment. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's paying quite, it kind of is, but we fund, I think this year into the budget, it's about 102,000 on the city levy, with the 50,000 from the county levy.
Any other questions of council? Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm noticing here on Summer Company, which I know is provincially funded, so it's not affecting our budget directly or our levy directly. It looks like in 2022, you budgeted for 7 student positions, approved for 5, and now we're budgeting for 6. Is that?
Absolutely. Oh, sorry. Yeah, your worship, through to council. Yes. Yeah. And that we've just had a new contract with the province that renewed on April the 1st of 2022. So we are now, as of April 2023, we'll be 1 year into our 2+1 contract with the province. At that point in time, they changed the numbers. So I think it's really determined on uptake, population size. So for our Starter Company Plus program, we have 9 grants per year available, but within the term of the contract, we can carry that over. Generally speaking, we don't have a lot of trouble getting rid of or having people apply for Starter Company Plus. Summer Company is hit and miss. I think part of what our engagement with the local high schools and that outreach, we're hoping to see us meet those 6. Again, in 2022, we had 5. We're hoping to make sure that we have 6 in every year of the contract moving forward through that engagement.
If I may just follow up, it is a fantastic program. I would encourage council to get to know it very well. And if we can be a part of promoting the program and increasing that uptake, it's a $3,000 grant for a summer student to start a summer business that valuable experience that you either learn that you would love to be an entrepreneur or you learn that you don't love to be an entrepreneur, which is great experience either way.
Yeah, and your worship, through to council, I would wholeheartedly second that. And when you look at 5 businesses that generated almost $85,000, and these are all students who went back to school in September. That's a very small window. And so there is all kinds of innovation. There is all kinds of entrepreneurship that is just waiting to be encouraged and nurtured and brought along. And that's very exciting for us because if you look at some of those companies, again, some of them will continue to year after year sustain those students. And then potentially there's revenue to be had if they actually grow them to a point where they could sell them to somebody, maybe other students. And so there's all kinds of untapped potential, and our community engagement is, we're very hopeful that that's going to really draw more entrepreneurs out. And I mean, we're here to help. They're not alone.
I do like that, by the way. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you, through the mayor to Sean. Just a little bit more clarification on that 50,000 county pays for. So you, your small business goes around to Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, Norwich, all these other municipalities. So they're not paying into this, it's really paid through the county, the 50,000, right? Like there's no funding come from any of those locations.
Your worship, through the council, that's correct. Our mandates, because the province contributes so much of our operating funding, the mandate is not to serve Woodstock proper with the other municipalities buying in. We are really, our mandate is to serve Oxford as a whole. We are the Oxford Small Business Center. The province doesn't necessarily differentiate between municipalities. The municipality, the county of Oxford, it's a 50,000 ask, and very generously we receive that from them, and that goes in to help offset our operating costs.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So I'll make this the last call for pages 89 to 91 for Sean. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, Ms. Hans. Doctor Recruitment, and this is pages 86 and 87. Thank you, Kristen.
Should have went after Brad. So for those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Christy Hans. I'm the physician recruiter. So my goal is to recruit and retain family doctors so that all residents of Woodstock have access to a primary care provider. So I won't run through all of this in detail, but it's a general summary of some of my main recruitment activities. So kind of a top level overview. I spend a great deal of my time working with medical students and residents, as well as new graduates. This might be at career fairs or conferences. It might be helping them organize a rotation in Woodstock so they can come to the community and learn and work here for 4 weeks. Or it might be hosting them for a site visit. I'm also able to organize events for groups of students or residents in partnership with the hospital or with one of the various medical schools. Preferably, we host these events in Woodstock so that we can showcase our own community, our new hospital, and also give them a chance to meet with some of the other members of our medical community. Okay, so here's the budget for this year versus 2022. The first line item represents the recruiter contract. After that, the next 3 line items represent the expenses that are associated with my main recruitment activities that I briefly went over on the previous slide. So things again like attending career fairs, hosting or sponsoring events, regular marketing materials, advertising, and general promotion. So these expenses have stayed relatively similar from last year. There's a slight increase. I'd say that's mostly driven by a lot of the events getting back to in-person rather than virtual. Some of the same challenges that Brad mentioned just with inflation and increased costs of hotel rooms, for example, in traveling to career fairs that are back to happening in person, which is ultimately a good thing. After those 3 line items, we come to the moving allowance. So the moving allowance was approved in July 2020. It has not actually been given out this incentive hasn't been given out to any physicians to date, because not all physicians are eligible. Not all new physicians that start here are eligible for it. I do expect this to change, so I anticipate we could have 2 to 3 physicians this year that are eligible. So I put 15,000 in the 2023 budget. However, I wanted to note that all 15,000 is available already from unused funds from previous years that were rolled over to 2023. The next item, I'm not going to get into a ton of detail tonight unless you want me to. But Brad touched on a proposed future forgivable loan program. Right now, this is just an anticipated future program. As Brad mentioned, he will be initiating an amendment to the community improvement plan before we could consider going forward with the forgivable loan. The reason for this is the proper way to implement the forgivable loan program is as part of the community improvement program. This is to ensure that the city is in compliance with the Municipal Act, specifically the language on bonusing. So at this time, I will be, of course, coming to council later this year with the full report on the forgivable loan. And at that time, asking for, I guess, permission to use the funds in that manner. At this time, we're just asking, I should add, there's already 60,000 available in that pool. That was put aside last year in anticipation of this program and in order to be prepared and have funds available should we decide to go ahead with it in the future. So there is currently 60,000 available. At this time, I'm proposing that we add an additional 30,000 to that pool. So it's available should council approve the forgivable loan program later this year after the amendment to the community improvement plan. Sorry, that's a lot to take in. So overall, the total budget, it looks significantly higher than last year, but do keep in mind that a total of $75,000 of that is available from unused funds that were rolled over to 2023. This data is getting a bit older now, but I like to keep it in here to show that physician recruitment is important to Woodstock residents. So you can see here in this survey from 2018, nearly 3/4 of the survey participants indicated that the city should financially support physician recruitment. I think part of the reason this is important to so many people is even the residents that are fortunate enough to have a family physician currently might be concerned about what will happen down the road should their family physician decide to retire and they're unable to find a new doctor. So this is the results of the recruitment program to date. I won't go through the whole history because Brad talked a long time and I'm getting hungry. But last year, I did want to touch on last year because I was really happy that we were able to recruit 3 new family physicians to join us here in Woodstock and to start practicing here. 2 of those physicians opened brand new practices and took on all new patients. The 3rd physician took over a practice from a retiring physician, which is also very important so that those patients did not end up orphaned or without a family doctor. The interesting thing here is 2 out of 3 of those physicians I'd been working with since 2019. So I wanted to point out that recruitment can be more of a long-term process. COVID in there did not help, but it does take time. One of them, actually, when I met with her in 2019, she was a medical student working with one of our local family doctors. She had a good time in the community and decided in her residency to come visit us again in Woodstock. And she actually came 2 to 3 times during her residency, working both at the hospital as well as with other family physicians in our community. Really good news story. This is what I'd love to see more happening, kind of more training and learners in the community, almost as a pipeline for future recruitment. And it obviously wouldn't be possible without the help of my community partners or my partners in recruitment, the family doctors here already, as well as the hospital. So a big thank you to them, particularly those doctors that teach and take students. Another note, as well as the 3 new doctors that are permanently practicing here, we did have a family physician who went on mat leave, a maternity leave. And thankfully, we were able to find 2 different locums to cover her full maternity leave. So a locum is someone who does just that. They do not have their own practice, but they fill in for other doctors when they're on a sick leave or a maternity leave. So thankfully, her practice was covered for the full amount of her maternity for both her and her patients. That was a good thing. One final note here, maybe you're already aware of this if you're in the position where you're looking for a family doctor, but when we did have 2 new doctors start last year and they opened their wait lists, they filled almost immediately. So, or at least within, I'd say 48 hours of any media coverage. So there's obviously still a huge need that I'm well aware of and working on. And that takes me to my next slide. So I estimate that we currently need roughly 3 to 5 new family physicians in Woodstock at this time. Of course, the exact number depends on exactly how many how many patients each new physician ends up enrolling in their practice. If we look at the predicted population growth in Woodstock, I would then add that we would need an additional 3 family physicians by 2026. I also expect that there could be up to 5 retirements over the next 5 years. It's important to keep in mind, I think these are fairly conservative estimates for 2 reasons. One, the numbers I'm looking at are for City of Woodstock, but we do know that we sometimes have people outside of city limits, maybe in other parts of the county, Ingersoll or Tilsonburg, that enroll with a new doctor in Woodstock. So if that's happening in significant numbers, then my estimates might be too low. The other disadvantage with the best stats I have to use from the health analytics branch is that it only shows me patients who do not have a physician anywhere. So those numbers don't capture someone who is still enrolled with their doctor in Mississauga because they moved here 2 years ago and have been unable to find a local family doctor. So again, I think these are pretty conservative estimates. Challenges. Most recruiters, as well as myself, are experienced when we're talking to new grads or residents at career fairs, we're hearing a lot of people that are, even though they're in a family medicine residency program, when they graduate, they don't want to have their own family practice. So they're looking to locum and maybe just fill in, but not have the responsibility of taking on their own small business, essentially. So they'll fill in for maternity leaves, or they might be looking to work exclusively at the hospital. So as a hospitalist, managing inpatients or in emerge. Very few people are looking to have their own practice these days, unfortunately. The good news and the silver lining here is it's not Woodstock that they're not attracted to. I get phone calls, emails all the time, but I would say 99% of the people that are interested and contact me are asking about emerge, hospitalist, or locum opportunities, not family practice, unfortunately. Of those few who are interested in having their own practice, obviously there's huge competition for them between communities. And then they generally prefer, if possible, to take over a practice from a retiring doctor. So they have an established practice rather than starting from scratch and enrolling all new patients. The next one, this might be, bear with me, it's a little difficult to explain, but most physicians now prefer to work in what's called the FO model or FHOs, which are family health organizations. So new physicians that want a family practice want to join one of these groups. In Woodstock, we have 2. Thankfully, as long as the physicians that are already in the group agree to take on new physicians into their group, that is okay and allowed by the Ministry of Health. So the FHOs are a more comprehensive care model. So it includes things like after hours clinic. So you may not even realize the other members of your doctor's FO. But for example, one of our FOs in Woodstock has 12 physicians. However, they are spread over roughly 4 different clinics. The ministry has decided that all the FO members should work preferably at the same location, so the same office. They've said for the doctors that are already established and have their own offices, that's fine. They can stay there and continue to practice. But now if a new doctor comes to Woodstock and wants to join an FHO, they want that doctor to co-locate at one of the existing medical clinics, which is all fine and good if any of the existing medical clinics had room and more exam rooms to add more physicians. So this is going to be a challenge going forward. They did say that if you must have a new location, they want to have at least 3 physicians at it. So now instead of finding 1 physician at a time, I need to find 3 that all have the same practice ideals and want to run their clinic in the same way and work together at the same time, which Brad said a needle in the haystack. I kind of think it's a little bit harder than finding a unicorn, but I will work on that. So the next challenge kind of goes along with that affordable clinic space. Then we look at incentives from the Ministry of Health. They're from the provincial government. Woodstock is not deemed rural or remote enough to qualify for any of these incentives. So a doctor here would not be eligible for that 80 to 120,000 in grants that someone setting up practice in a more rural location would be, unfortunately. And then finally, so a lot of other smaller communities have taken incentives into their own hands. And so they're offering their own incentives, sometimes on top of what the physician receives from the Ministry of Health, or maybe instead of, if it's a smaller community and they don't qualify for the provincial incentives, some communities offer their own incentives. So there are dozens of examples I could give. I chose a couple that are closer to home. So St. Thomas and Tillsonburg. You can see they both give roughly 30 to around 30,000 for a 4 to 5 year commitment, as well as plus or minus a few other things thrown in there. I know Kingston started offering 100,000 last year. Some places like Belleville, Trenton area, it's 150 to 200,000. So yeah, so I guess that's it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of council? In general, on pages 86 and 87 is where you're going to find the information here. While everybody's looking at their book, I do have a question. Nurse practitioners. There seems to be a trend of a lot of nurse practitioners. My own wife doesn't have a doctor, but she has a nurse practitioner. Is that something you're seeing? A lot of interest or new?
Yeah, I mean, they have their own separate funding model from the government, so it's completely different, but it's a great alternative option for primary care. Yeah, they have, I believe they only have so much funding, so they probably can't expand freely either. But I know in Ingersoll, there's a good option for that. Yeah. We could explore that more. I've been focused on physician recruitment, but and a lot of nurse practitioners do work in conjunction as part of the family health teams that work. So they work in groups with the other allied health professionals. So they are involved in the care, but in our family health organizations, they would still be with a physician as well as have access to a nurse practitioner, not exclusively see the nurse practitioner.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Before we move along, I just want to make sure to see if anybody has any questions for Mr. Hammond himself. Kind of as the over everything. We don't want to give him any more time than we have to, but.
Yeah, I can't believe you'd let me near the mic again, but anyway, my apologies.
No, just for council's sake, if there is anything in general, again, this is for pages 85 to 88 in totality. Seeing none, I think you're off the hook now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, next up is Information Technology. Sorry about that. Mr. Creary is going to be presenting that. And this is for pages 14 and 15 for those following along. Thank you, Mr. Creary.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I am filling in for Mr. Grattan this evening. He is our manager of information technology, and he just couldn't be here with us this evening. I just want to preface the remarks by saying the information technology budget is a very important budget area, and it's also an increasingly complex area of expertise. So I'm going to hope that I can do justice to your questions. The IT budget is actually the fourth highest increase in dollar value of all of the city areas, and that's reflective of the need to continue to invest in this area. And I did not do this presentation. So Mr. Grattan put this presentation together for you this evening. So the one of the primary areas of investment is in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, and two areas specifically of investment with respect to technology investments for network security itself. He's identified that our investments in this area have resulted in 8.4 million requests being blocked, 34,600 emails being blocked, thousands of attachments through emails being stripped, and over 34 million files being analyzed, and that is counting. On the other side is the results of our education programming, because our cybersecurity is only as good as the users who are using the network. We've had 647 hours of employee education in the area of cybersecurity. We've had 500 plus phishing emails reported. Our susceptibility, I guess, to phishing attempts went from 90% to 2.5% as a result of this education program. And the phishing industry standard within municipal space is 34%. So we significantly decreased our risk as a result of our employee education. Now, cybersecurity continues to always be a threat, and we're seeing it in our daily work. We're seeing it in the form of social engineering and phishing attempts, and yourselves as candidates in the recent election, you know, we're aware of threat actors harvesting your election emails. We're aware that there is impersonations of his worship using those election emails, masquerading, attempting through a phishing exercise to try and gain a relationship. So this is ongoing. This is happening in real time. And we're aware even today, the fire department, the phone number of the fire department was being used in text messages improperly. So this is definitely a significant area, continues to need attention and investment, and this represents a significant part of the year-over-year increase in the IT budget. The second area would be business process improvement. And Mr. Grattan and his department is following this approach of identifying process deficiencies, consolidating work streams, looking at options to consolidate work streams, to remove duplication and create efficiencies in our business processes. And this is actually underway in a number of areas where we're removing applications, business process applications that are end of life, and we're replacing them with new applications that consolidate business processes, that reduce the duplication of the input of data, reduce the risk of error in that input of data. And actually, we've been successful in obtaining grants through the Municipal Modernization Fund to help offset the cost of these improvements. This is going on in a number of areas. And I won't mention the business applications just because we want to protect our our network as much as possible. And we don't need to provide threat actors with any more information than is necessary. So this is ongoing. So looking forward, they will continue to utilize technology to improve our security. We'll continue to focus on increased education. We'll look to improve our processes through collaboration and support, creating value for the rest of the corporation. And with that, Your Worship, I will turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you. Questions of council? Keeping in mind to Mr. Creary. I do believe Mr. Grattan had the opportunity to sit down with virtually everyone as well on a one-on-one basis for those watching at home as well. So he did go over things quite well. So seeing no questions, thank you very much for the presentation. And next, we just have a little budget item. Mr. Dahan, Engineering Department, and do you plan on doing the entire thing and then we'll go back?
Yes, please.
By section?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I assume. Thank you.
No, thank you. Am I just gonna wait for it to pop up here? Oh, neat. And we're mirrored again. All right. Your worship, councilors, yeah, I'm here to, I used to say present the budgets from 94 James Street, but now it's the upper level of 94 James Street. So it's the building department, the engineering department, which is part of the engineering department, bylaw, parking, transit, and paratransit. And the numbers for each accounts or general accounts are there. I'm gonna start with the building department. I'm gonna go through as they appear in your account, in your budget books. So we'll start with building 0301. 2022 year in review. Currently, we have 2 temp building inspectors and 1 temp building technician. We converted to cloud permit software to enable electronic submittals. And although the construction value was up, the number of residential units was down for last year. In 2023, we hope to continue the conversion to 100% electronic filing and permitting. And then we also hope to fill those temporary positions that I mentioned with permanent staff. Looking quickly, overview of the numbers. We'll see for revenue for building permits we had in 2022, we had 847,000. We're projecting the same for 2023. And then others, which is basically a contribution from reserves. Last year, we had 297,000. This year, we're projecting 319,000, which is an increase of 7.5%. An overall increase in revenues of 2.0%. Now, I should probably say this up front. The building department is a self-funded department by law. So basically, we have to zero out net zero for the whole department. So the permits and the contribution from reserves, those numbers are always adjusted at the end of the year in order to net out what the actual expenditures were. A lot of times, permits end up coming in higher than what we expect, so we end up taking less from the reserves, which is like what we like to see. But yeah, so right now that's the way we're projecting the expenditures, which is pretty much labors, incidentals, that kind of thing. 2022, we had 1,144,000. This year, we're projecting 1.166 million, which is an increase of 22,000 or 2%. And that's basically just wages there. And as I mentioned earlier, they're all net zero. The engineering department, 0303 in 2022. Council had approved a new engineering position for our department, a special projects and development engineer. We hired that. We hired an asset manager since our other one left us. We hired a new custodian and a new design technician and a temporary GIS coordinator because our permanent one is on a mat leave. We've updated the asset management plan. I think council saw a copy of that a few months ago as it had a council report. And we completed approximately $8.8 million in construction projects. The 2023 objectives are to complete a draft plan of subdivision for the lands east of the 401. As you may know, that's the industrial park that we're hoping to construct in Eastwood, or what used to be Eastwood. We're hoping to improve the condition assessment of the facility portion of the AMP, and I'll talk a little bit more about that under additions to base. And we need to, the province has changed the whole permitting process for infrastructure. So we'll be implementing a new consolidated lineal infrastructure permit process, which from the public side of things, you won't see much about, but it's going to be a kind of a major change in terms of paperwork we have to go through. And then lastly, we need to find a replacement for our deputy city engineer. We posted once already this year. We did not get satisfactory results, so we're going to repost again shortly, hopefully things turn out a little bit better. Notable changes in our budget. You'll see that data processing is up 20%. This is completely due to licensing fee increases from our suppliers such as Esri, the software suppliers such as Esri and AutoCAD. Nothing we can do about it. Survey supplies are up to reflect actual historic costs. And new equipment is up due to replacement of obsolete equipment. And to offset this a little bit, we brought in some money from a reserve account. Yeah, the equipment that we have, the survey equipment, kind of show a piece of it right there. The supplier has told us they won't repair it anymore. So we need to get a new system up and running before it dies on us. And it's not cheap. And then there's a transfer, as I mentioned, we're proposing a transfer from the reserves for the completion of the development guidelines. Which we need to, now that with Bill 23, we no longer have the ability to do site plan control for certain applications. So we're hoping that by having the city adopt a development guidelines, that will be a way to make sure that everything's built to the way we want them built. So looking at engineering numbers, revenues, 494,000 for 2022, 711 for not the grocery store or not the convenience store for 2023. So an increase of 217. And that is mostly, well, we'll go through the line items later on, but so I'm bringing in some accounts from some reserves. So that's an increase of 44%, but that's a 1 year jump kind of thing. It won't happen again. Next year it'll go back down. Expenditures, 2022, we had just over 2 million for engineering costs. Just under 2.4 for 2023, so a change of just over 300,000 or 14.6%. Streetlights and traffic signals, combining those two together, we're looking at 757,000. Most of that's hydro. Next year we're projecting 752, so a drop of 5,000. And miscellaneous other, which includes things like the Crow program and other odds and ends, rail cost sharing. We had a budget of 88, and we're keeping that the same. So the net basically going from 2.4 to 2.5, or an increase of 83,000 or 3.4%. As I mentioned, we have a couple additions to base budget we're asking council to consider. The first one is an increase to the asphalt resurfacing reserve contribution. We do a road need study every other year, and it recommends the levels that we need to be spending in order to keep our roads at their current state. Basically, the report right now is recommending that we spend about $1 million a year in resurfacing in order to keep our existing level of service. It has been going down. Currently, we're only spending about $400,000 a year. And so we're hoping that council will increase it another $200,000 this year with the intent that we keep increasing it 200,000 each year until we hit that target of $1.1 million. The other addition to base budget, which I briefly mentioned upon, is we would like to create a building condition reserve. We need to accurately, in order to have in order to create an accurate asset management plan, which the province is telling us we have to include facilities in by 2024. In order to do that accurately, we can't just look at a building and say it's 20 years old, therefore, you know, it's got X amount of life left into it. There's too many subsystems in every building, such as HVAC system, structural, roof, you know, all that kind of stuff. So what this condition reserve would do is it would allow us to create a pool of money so that we can go into each building and have a complete condition assessment done. And then that way we can put accurate projections together for the whole building. So we would know that there's 80% of the HVAC system left. There's only 20% of the roof left. You know, that way we can then project forward on when we need to spend the money. And that's the whole intent of the asset management program, is that we build this pool so we avoid the peaks and valleys of capital projects, so that, you know, on valley years, you're putting it to the reserve. On peak years, you're taking it out of the reserve. But either way, the tax collector is paying the same amount. Bylaw Department 304, 2022 year in review. We hired an additional bylaw officer, bringing our complement to 4. We had over 1,500 concerns and complaints addressed this year, compared to about 1,300 for 2021, and just over 2,200 tickets issued. And we also added, security staff, contract security staff in the downtown area. 2023 objectives for bylaw is we would like to update the sign bylaw and the parks bylaws. That one's kind of been on our to-do list for a while, and unfortunately we haven't struck it off yet. We want to investigate administrative penalties to streamline appeals and guarantee payment. As well as we're close to implementing the parking software, hotspot parking for online payments, and issuing electronic tickets and cloud permit software, which would receive and track bylaw complaints electronically. Notable changes in the budget for bylaw is 15,000 is a one-time transfer to pay for the new software I just mentioned. The addition of 155,000 for the downtown security, the council approved last year. So now it's a permanent part of our base budget. And then the employee incidentals are up considerably due to the increase of going from 3 employees to 4. So looking at the overall numbers for bylaw revenue of 6,000 for last year, we're hoping to get 16,000 for this year, an increase of 191%. And that basically just brings it, that's the ticket revenue basically, and brings it up to pre-COVID levels. Expenditures, total of 535,000 for 2022, adjusting it to 576 for 2023, an increase of 41,000 or 7.6%, for a net increase of 30,000 or 5.7%. Parking, and this kind of goes going back to anyway, parking, notable changes in budget. Revenue from tickets increased to 15,000 to reflect historic levels. We assigned some of the cost of the contract. You remember I said there was 155,000 in bylaw added in because of the contract services downtown. Well, we have those contract services also doing some parking law and parking enforcement in downtown. So we've taken some of that cost also and added to the parking portion of the budget. So they're actually creating some income also. So looking at the total numbers for parking, 2022 revenue, we had 132,000. 2023, we're at 142 for an increase of 7.4%. In expenditures, administrative costs for 2022 was 108. 2023, we're hoping to get a 87, which is down 20.5%. This was basically a loss of a quasi employee that we had. So yeah, it's a one-time drop and then but it's kind of more popping back up into the operation expenses. So operation and expenses, we were at 85 last year. We're going to 137 this year. That $52,000 change, as I mentioned, is a portion of the contract security doing parking enforcement. So overall in parking, we're talking about a $21,000 increase or 34.1%. Parking additions to base budget, we're asking council to reassign one of the security guards. Currently, you know, we have 2 in the downtown during the day. We'd like to reassign one of those security persons to a citywide parking enforcement. Doing it since the money's already in the budget, that would mean there'd be no additional operating cost. Since we're already paying for that. And the company said, originally the company had said that they wanted pairs. They wanted their guys to work in pairs. But after having done this for a year now, they said they're willing, you know, they haven't really noticed any health and safety issues. So they're willing to back off on that a little bit and let their guys work in single teams, in singles. I guess you can't have a single team. So anyway, but there would, even though the operational cost for that person is there, we still need a capital cost of $40,000 for a vehicle and a minor amount operational cost for that vehicle. This would allow this person to enforce not just downtown parking, but overnight parking and throughout the city and any other parking infractions throughout the city, like rush routes and that kind of thing. And we're hoping that additional ticket revenue will pay for the increased equipment costs, which is why we haven't included that in the operating costs. So this is the budget I don't want to talk about. Transit 0709 year in review. This is the first year of our new system, which had seven routes. We have over 230,000 hours of driving and 825,000 kilometers of travel. We've signed new advertising contracts which provide us an increased guaranteed revenue. We added to the bus barn, almost doubled it in size, and added 2 more buses to the fleet. And Woodstock Transit is now available on Google Maps, so you can plan your trip now if you use Google Maps. 2023 objectives, we'd like to exceed the pre-COVID ridership numbers. We're getting close. We want to keep that growing. We want to improve driver retention. We spent a fair bit of time the last few years having drivers leave and then going through the process of hiring and training new drivers. And for transit, that training it's a 3-week full-time program. So it's fairly labor intensive, both for the new drivers and for our staff. We want to improve bus stop and shelter maintenance, as well as a resolve conflict resolution and defensive driving training for drivers, keep our accident rate low rates down. Notable changes for the budget. I'm sure you've noticed that we are actually over budget this year in transit. So this is kind of why. Equipment costs were up in 2022. In 2022, fuel costs went up 36.1%. We spent approximately just over $700,000 on fuel. Insurance went up, 15% is this year's number, is what it's going up. Last year went up even higher than that. And I talked to our fleet supervisor earlier this week, and just to compare, I said, give me an average cost of what parts have gone up in the last year for bus repair. And he said, well, some parts have gone up, 300%, some not at all. But he said, yeah, generally on an average, he said 10 to 15% for parts. I'm sure the mayor can probably attest to that also. So because of that, we're asking for an increase in the equipment charges of $460,000. Another hit to the budget is the revenue from gas tax is down $150,000. And the incidentals such as OMERS, CPP, EI, et cetera, are up an average of almost 15%. We've also added the part-time vacation costs to the budget. This should have been done last year already, but for some reason or another, we missed it. And so that's another 34%. And the increased premises wages are up $30,000 to reflect historical costs. So looking at the actual numbers for transit in terms of revenues, fares for 2022, we're at 425. 425,000. In 2023, we're hoping to get 540,000 or $115,000 more. And then the miscellaneous, as I mentioned, due to the grants not coming in, last year's budget of 808 is going down to 685 out of a drop of 123,000. So basically our revenues in total are going up 0.6%. Unfortunately, that compares to our expenses, which are going up 10.5%. Operations last year of 2.7 million, going up to 3.3 million in 2023, or a change of 592,000. As I mentioned, a lot of that's in the equipment charges to own, to pay for operation and maintenance of the buses. That's a change of 21 over 21%. And the administration costs we're actually projecting of going down 1%. So the net costs for transit in 2023 is, we're looking at just over $2.9 million. Additions to base budget, which we'd like council to consider, are we'd like to convert a part-time transit custodian to a full-time. Right now we have 3 part-time custodians. They all kind of work in the evening. We'd like to get one of them to be part-time to work more throughout the day. This would cost an additional $46,000 a year, including benefits, but would allow the custodian to, one, oversee the bigger building that he now has, allows, we have, as I mentioned, we have 2 more buses to clean now, and also allows the custodian then to oversee contractors that he has to bring in to do repairs or maintenance on the building or bus shelters or bus stops also, instead of having our transit supervisor have to take care of that. Moving on to paratransit, 07110. Revenues we're projecting to see the same. We haven't seen the growth back in paratransit as we have in transit last year. So we're keeping that at 45,000. Expenditures operation. Last year budget was last year's budget was 750. This year we're looking at 785, or a 2% increase. Administration, basically a little bit of a drop, going from 33 to 31. So ultimately, net cost for paratransit is 751,000, which is a 1.7% increase over last year. And that's it.
That's a lot of stuff to cover.
Pardon me?
That was a lot of stuff to cover.
It is.
Yes.
Dry mouth.
So I'm going to start off, and again, we're going to go by section here. So everybody is aware, we're going to start off by the engineering department, and we'll go with pages 31, and we're going to do 31 to 33. So anything for engineering department questions at all? Light items. Counselor Wheaton?
Appreciate that you just look over here now. Just assume the hand's going up. Through the chair, page 32, 0383 consultant services. You might have touched on it in your presentation. I was trying to highlight and write at the same time. Can you describe that for me?
Your worship, through the counselor. Yes, this is to, well, we normally have a budget of $35,000 to cover miscellaneous times that we have to hire a consultant to give, an engineering consultant to get a specialized opinion on something. However, in order to finish those development guidelines, which I mentioned, we are bringing in, if you look on revenues, we're bringing in an additional 23.4 right at the very top there. That's added into the consultant services to kind of make it a kind of a net zero increase, if you will, I guess. I'm hoping that'll cover it. Like I said, right now it's wide open on certain applications of less than 10 units. They don't have to go through site plan anymore. So I'm hoping that once we have, that somehow we can find a way that with the adoption of development guidelines that some standards at least are kept to in the construction.
Any other questions for engineering department? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to building, and that's on pages 25 and 26. Any questions of council? Counselor Wheaton?
Through the chair, same question. Consultant fees, 4th line from the bottom, 0383, is that the same situation? An increase of 30,000. It's brand, it seems to be a new cost this year. Wasn't budgeted last year. Sorry, page 25.
Yep, no, I see it, yes. I think, and maybe Diane can help me if you don't mind, I think that's for the software installation. The cloud permit.
Through the question. Sorry, what account are you looking at? 25.
Pardon me, page 25, fourth from the bottom, 0383 consulting fees. We didn't budget anything in 2022. We did spend close to 50,000, but in 2023, we're budgeting 30. So just curious what that is.
And we spent 49 in 2022.
Give me a minute, I'll look it up.
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton, I believe that relates to the need to put some of the workload for building permit application for review for building code compliance out to private consultants because there isn't the staff capacity to manage the volume of work. And so it was there's some seasonal stresses on the existing staffing and they just couldn't manage. So because it's a zero-sum budget, all of it is funded by building permit revenue. It was to keep our standards somewhat level. They had to go and seek help.
Your worship, through the councillor, David is correct. Yes, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, we hired a firm that actually does just plan reviews and helped us over the summer months with that.
Thank you. Any other questions before moving along to bylaw? Okay, seeing none, bylaw, we're on page 34 and 35. And while everybody's looking at their books, I just got a quick question of you. Would you consider this the first time the city's being a little more proactive in the bylaw with these proposed changes? You know, versus always being complaint based if we're gonna have somebody going around doing tickets?
Your worship, we haven't necessarily been complaint based for ticket, like for parking infractions. But due to the growth of other areas, more complaints, as the city grows, complaints obviously grow. We haven't been able to keep on top of parking infractions as much as we have in past. So this is kind of getting, I think by doing this, we're kind of getting back to a level that we used to be at.
That's good. I think that's a lot of residents would appreciate that as well. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, through the mayor to Mr. Dahan. On the bylaw of the revenue, so it's very small revenue, actually, only $1,000. And so is most of the revenue for parking tickets and everything, is that all under parking? And if there's other fines, are we not being able to collect them, or just why is that so low?
Excuse me, your worship, through the councillor, yes, parking tickets goes to parking. And in terms of bylaw, we there's usually not too many fines that actually end up being, you know, and any costs, any fines that are assessed, Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they end up going to the court, correct? Yeah. But our bylaw guys, for the large part, I mean, not to say that they don't hand out fines, in which case the money goes to the court, but we try to avoid handing out the fines. Also, we like to work with the residents as much as possible to avoid handing out that fine. So, yeah. Yep.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, through the chair to Mr. Dahan. Page 34, new software. We budgeted 15,000 in 2022. It doesn't look like we spent it. We're budgeting it again this year. Is this just a procurement challenge of 2022 with so many other things, or didn't get around to it last year, but we're going to get to it this year?
Your worship, through the councillor, I know we have been working on it this year. I didn't catch the fact that we hadn't spent anything this year. Last year, sorry, right?
Your worship, through to the council's question. This was a carryover project. It's for the bylaw enforcement piece of the cloud permit, and so that's what the 15,000 is in revenue to offset that.
Any other questions on bylaw? Okay, seeing none, moving along to parking, pages 43 and 44. Any questions of council? Seeing none, move along to transits. Pages 45, and we're gonna go till 47. We'll do all three pages on transit, as there might be some questions there. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. DeHaan, I saw today in the news that Ontario is providing funds to the county for transit and transportation, and Woodstock, from what I'm reading here, is getting $536,653. Is that something that's coming through this year? Is that anything that you've heard any words about? It sounds like this was just something that was brought out in the news mid-afternoon today. So I'm not sure if this is something that's going to be allotted to this budget, if you've heard anything about this, or if this is kind of news to you as well today too.
Your worship, through the councillor, yes, it's news to me. Is this for the transit system the counties wants? No.
Your worship, through to Councillor Wismer Van Meer, that announcement relates to the provincial dedicated gas tax, which is dedicated solely to transit systems, as opposed to the federal gas tax, which can be used in a variety of areas. And so this is a normative funding source, and the 536,000 is normal annual funding provided to the city for transit operations. Base budget typically divides that money. 150,000 goes towards offsetting the cost of operations, and then the balance of roughly $380,000 goes to capital. And we use that capital to renew our transit fleet.
Thank you.
Counselor Leatherborough.
Through the chair, on page 47, I'm just curious where it says transit admin, marketing and communication. What would that all involve? It was budget for 9,000, 12,000, just over 12,000 was spent, and then budget 9,000 again this year. I'm just curious about marketing and communication.
Yeah, your worship, through the councillor. So last year that was for new printing of all new maps, because we made some revisions. And there was we had to advertise the fare increase from 2 to 275. And well, it was also the advertising of the route change that we made. So yeah, so usually that market is that account is used for marketing our day-to-day services. And then when we make changes like that, it creates a little bit of a blip in the account. So we have to spend some more money.
Continue.
Sorry, so just an additional question. So with the change coming to the transit that's expected for March, would that then be used out of this budget?
Your worship, through the councillor, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Counselor Lauder.
Yes, through the mayor to Mr. DeHaan. On the transit cleaning, washing buses, that's gone up $10,000. Is that because of the two new buses? There are other reasons for that?
Your worship, through the councillor, what account is that again? Sorry.
384 on page 45. That's fourth one up in the bottom.
Your worship, through the councillor, partially, but it's also partially to cover historic costs. If you noticed, we went quite a bit over budget on that account last year.
Yeah.
Part of that was because we did find out that some charges had inadvertently been charged to this account. But yes, we're more bumping it to the 21,000 to match what we have been spending.
Okay. And just one more question. And it's a small, the chartered trips on page 47, where do we take charter trips to? Or what's that for?
Oh, glad you asked that. Your worship, through the counselor, my fleet supervisor thought I was, or sorry, the transit supervisor, why are you asking that? It's $250. I'm like, it'll be asked. So no, so yeah, so we used to do, that number used to be bigger. And then last year actually went dropped to zero because we used to do a weekly run for the grocery store. Which one was it? Yes. And then they had a new manager who didn't believe in that program, so it stopped. But this money actually is for schools. Sometimes the public schools hire us out. And then also this is kind of interdepartmental charges for Calpalooza. The shuttle that we just recently ran for a family day, although that'll show up in this year's budget. Art gallery, I think used our service a couple times last summer. Yep.
I think you were next. Oh, okay. Counselor Shanberg.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Gahan, I guess this is the mathematical question of the day. $275 is a fare for a single ride, but lots of people buy monthly passes and there's discounts for students, et cetera. How much would you say the average fare in the city of Woodstock is already subsidized based on the cost of fuel and the buses and the drivers and all the other fees? Because it would be a substantial amount, and sometimes we get asked or tapped on the shoulder and suggested that maybe we could subsidize buses even more than what they're already subsidized.
Your
That's kind of
worship,
why I asked the question. It's already greatly subsidized.
who's got the calculator? Your worship, through the counselor, in years past, I've had that number on hand. I don't this year. I can give you an email tomorrow if you don't mind, tell you. Let's see, what was our ridership last year? 400 some odd thousand for the year?
465. I remember seeing that number. Remember, it was 41,000 in December.
Yeah, so. Okay, we've got a net cost of $2.3 million, right? Divide by, say what, 425,000 rides? Oh, yeah. Whoa, no. Oh, sorry, I dropped some zeros. Never
Pretty
back,
bad
and
when
then-
you scare yourself.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, so what did you? That sounds about right. Yeah. Net, yes.
I think in years past, we talked around $8 if
Yeah.
memory serves me correct. I think at
So,
one time it was
No,
$8.
so transit is heavily subsidized. I won't deny that. But on the flip side, it's one of the few city programs that users do pay for. You don't pay for the roads. But there's
That's
arguments.
perspective.
There's arguments on both sides. You do pay for the pools though. You don't pay for a library.
Counselor
go on.
Leatherborough.
Through your chair, just wanted to flip back to bylaw if we
Okay.
could. I'm just curious, when we're talking about ticketing and the security guard shifting to ticketing for parking. And then just the comments around trying to work with the residents, specifically for snow removal. Do our bylaw officers ticket residents that aren't removing snow from the front sidewalk in front of their home?
Right. Your worship, through the council, the standard operating procedure for that is they go out the day after an event and to see who has not shoveled. They will then, if they see that you have not shoveled, they will then put a notice on your door or somewhere where you can hopefully find it saying you have, until our contractor gets there, you have that one, which is usually another day to clean the sidewalk. Otherwise, our contractor will shovel it for you. And the cost of that will be added to your property taxes. So it's not really a fine, it's just a cost that's added to the property taxes.
Through your chair, and how often does that happen? Do you know roughly? I mean, obviously it depends on the snowfall and things like that, but I've had a lot of questions about in other cities ticketing for residents that aren't removing snow, and then obviously pedestrians with strollers, accessibility.
Right.
It's people walking on the road,
Yeah.
so.
Your worship, through the counselor, I will admit it probably doesn't happen as often as it should. It's a work in progress. We started this program last year and we're trying to get the guys into the habit of, as soon as it snows, that's basically what you're doing the next day is going out and walking the sidewalks. So.
One more question through you, Chair. So in the, and just so I understand properly, this security guard, again, issuing parking tickets, would they have any type of authority to do the snow removal?
Your worship, through the council, no, they would not. They won't be brought in as bylaw officers, but just parking officers.
Thank you. Any other questions on transit or paratransit now? We'll include page 48. Any discussions? Counselor Lauder.
This is just a question because I saw something on Facebook today. With paratransit, does it stop at the same time, same services, I should say, as the bus services? Or does it have extra hours?
Your worship, through the councillor, no, because of AODA requirements, we have to run the exact same hours and have the exact same fare system as for both systems.
So if our buses run till 10 o'clock,
You should be able to get a ride till 10 o'clock, yes. Now,
right?
that being said, we wouldn't pick you up at 10 o'clock. You'd have to be back home at 10 o'clock.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Third question. Anyone else? Because I believe that would now finish up Mr. Don.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, the other small budget, Mr. Locke, welcome. So this is Public Works and starting off on pages 16 to 24, but I'm assuming you'd like to do the same thing, do your whole presentation. We'll go back.
That's correct.
Okay.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to present the Public Works budget. My presentation is going to go over some highlights, some initiatives, and we'll have a quick high-level review of the budget numbers. And I will note that I have no additions this year to base budget, so understand that there's nothing this year. We do have some impacts from the 3 positions from last year that we added. So the 4 key areas we'll look at is public works, kind of the small public works, which is really our roads and winter control and all of that. Waste, recycling area, sanitary, and water. So that may be pretty small for you to read, but off to the right side is the budgeted maintenance programs within the public works budget. And just go through a few of the highlights that are speaking notes, sorry, that are on the year in review. And so you'll see that we have started in on a process of updating and creating new SOPs. SOPs are standard operating procedures for those that aren't aware. And what they do is they provide staff with assistance on how to do their tasks, and it builds consistency and helps them do so in a safe manner. We had some of the things I'd just like to highlight. We had delays in our replacement of equipment due to supply chain issues and maintenance of equipment as well, and increased costs there. I think we've talked about that at council several times. The garage, I do want to point out one of the areas in the budgeted area in the garage. We provide the fleet services for pretty much the entire city for transit, parks, public works, engineering, bylaw, fire, police. Now, so we do it all. And I'm just going to recognize we have our fleet services supervisor who started on Monday. He's brand new to the role he's been acting in an acting capacity, but Adam Moran. So just maybe stand up so that they know who you are. And he's going to continue doing a great job, I think, in that area. So we look forward to that. So we do have one thing to highlight. We've been working hard to do some recruitment. So I'll thank the staff in HR for this as well. But we've finally got to a full complement of mechanics in our garage area. And that's anybody that's in that kind of industry knows how hard it is to retain and keep staff. And we're doing our best to do that. So The other thing that we started last year, and this was one of the base items, we hired a business analyst to work on a work management system. We came up with one that I've had in the past. It's Mesh is how it's referred to, and we're working on that. It was pretty late in the year start on it, and so we're just starting now to get our legs under us with that, and we expect to see a lot of that happening in this year and the years to come. So the proposed initiatives that we have is continue to build on those SOPs that we have and continue to build out the work management system. So the numbers, and that's pretty hard to see, but sorry. I will just say that there is a couple of the highlights would be that on the equipment charges lines, we've added pretty much across the board in this budget around a 20% increase, and that offsets some of those pressures from inflation that we've seen on the service on the maintenance side of things. And funding, this budget also funds into the equipment reserve, and so we need to up our charges there to handle that, to offset that. So it's a 2.52% increase, or 136,000. And don't really have anything more to highlight with that one. So well, if the so the format for all the slides will be pretty much the same, just so you follow along. So the budgeted areas are off to the right again. This is the waste and recycling. It's one of the things, if Warren is here, Warren was here, and he was kind of the mastermind behind our garbage and recycling route changes this year. And I think it went very well, and it's helped balance that program across the city, and provides a great service to the city. So one of the things we like to champion is that we've had no canceled garbage and recycling collection days due to winter or for any other reason for that matter. One of the things that I do want to highlight here is in our Enviro Depot, and I see I've got dates wrong there, sorry. But we had 48,825 vehicles in 2022. And that's up from roughly 45,000 in 2021. So this is a free service that we provide to our residents, and you can see how popular that is, and how busy it is there, which one of the proposed initiatives down at the bottom we'll talk about in a second. But continued things we're continuing with the waste and recycling is those SOPs again, and preparing for the organics and recycling changes that are coming. I won't get into that today because I will be bringing something forward to council at some point in time. They're really working on for the recycling changes. They're really working on those that transition in 2023 right now. So it's hard to get answers out of them for us. We're December 31st, 2025, and they really, it's hard to get answers for what we're going to be doing just yet. So, and the organics is something we've been working with the county. They have a consulting firm that they brought in to do a study, and we've participated in that a little bit. But we do know that we do hear the requests from our residents about that program for sure. But ideally, those two programs would, if we end up being out of the recycling business, we would be able to transition those trucks into that. So it'd be nice to align the timing on those two programs so that we have a minimal amount of change to our fleets and impact the budget. So continue to build out the work management system, support all functions. This is the one here, the educational campaign for the Enviro Depot. We're working with our marketing folks and our people up at the depot to look at how we can better serve the community, how we provide that service. We have a lot of misuse, I'll say, of the depot, and we want to clean that up. We hope that we can get the knowledge out prior to people leaving their homes. And the reason I say that is because when they come to the depot and their trucks loaded up for something, last thing we want to do is turn them around, but sometimes we have to because it's just not things that we accept there. So and that creates animosity and conflict and all those things that we don't need to happen up there. So hopefully we can deal with some of that through education. So next. So this one here, again, this one is a county funded budget. So you'll see there's no impact to the tax levy. There is around a 14% increase, which is just offset by that. And this one had two additions to base last year. So part of that would be, part of their wages would be in that equation. And it's one of the areas where the 20% increase for the equipment charges, it's a heavy equipment charge area. So you can think the garbage trucks and all of that. So big impact there. And so then moving on to sanitary sewers, really not much of a change from year to year here. So the operations technologist again is working on the SOPs, and will continue to as an initiative in 2023. And same with the work order management modules, and that's really the focus for that area moving forward. And you can look at the budget here. We're at a 9.7% increase, or 53,000. Seems when you do the math, this is one that's got another heavy piece of equipment, the vac truck. So you know it takes a big piece of that increase as well. So that's that one, and we'll go on to water. So year in review, we see the DWQMS audit was successful again. No real issues there. Worked through the uncertainty that was caused by the service delivery review. So we had a lot of I'll just say that there was a lot of staff time spent on that. And it's time to move forward. So we are there. We are working on SOPs in that area and business work management modules there as well. So we'll continue the high level of service that we provide our residents, and we're also looking at, like I said, the SOPs and the work management system. One other thing that we were challenged with through the COVID years, I'll say, and things transitioned a little bit to online, and then they've transitioned back. And I don't know whether it was a comfort level, but we've had some operator training courses that we've signed up for that got canceled because they didn't have enough people for the course. So we couldn't go. So now we're looking at how we can get that training done and make sure that our licenses are all maintained. And we have a plan. So it's not critical yet, but I want to make sure that we make a focus out of that and make sure that it is done. And looking at the budget, it's a $82,000 increase, or around 4.3%. And just a summary of my presentation. Just we've worked this year to get the body in place to work on the work management system, the mesh, and we've worked on the standard operating procedures, and we've started working on some work plans as well. Just overall. So the initiatives for next year is continue most of that work. So the mesh work order management systems, the SOPs, and the educational campaign for the depot is a big initial piece. And with that, I will try to answer any of your questions. I was trying to be brief there. I don't know.
That was excellent. Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, thanks to the mayor through to Dan Locke. I guess when you have a category like bridge maintenance and what the amount might be guesstimated for 2023, is that simply just a guesstimation, not knowing what you might run into?
So what our maintenance is on the bridges is basically 2 cleanings per year. So and you can see in the budget that we only managed to get 1 of those done last year, if you look at the previous numbers. So we actually, I'll backtrack, and it was part of my presentation, but I was trying to speed it up here. We did go through a pretty heavy exercise. I've been here a year and a half, and one of the things that didn't feel comfortable with the first year to do, but we went through an exercise where we looked at all the labor dollars and tried to put them in the right buckets. So some of that, when you look at the labor dollars, they may not align with the previous years. So keep that in mind. We tried to move them around. No new bodies, no new money there other than their percent increases. But it just tried to help that labor look like it's in the right spot, so to speak. So just back to the bridge question. Yeah. So we're looking at 2 power washings. Basically, they look at the expansion joints and they power wash that and just give everything a once over, if you will.
Okay, so we're gonna do Public Works. We'll start off with pages. Well, if everyone's comfortable, we'll just keep it by section 16 to 24, the length, if that's okay with everyone. Counselor Leatherborough?
Through your chair, I have kind of a two-part question, so I might bounce around a little bit here, but it's about snow and sidewalk snow removal. So on page 18 at the very bottom, there's sidewalk snow control contracts.
Yep.
And for 2022, there was 16,000 and then 0 for the 2023 budget. And then on page 21, similarly at the bottom, there's winter control contracts, 0 in the budget of 2022, but 12, just over 12,000 was spent in 2022. And then that's obviously budgeted going forward. So I just wanted to understand the differences between the sidewalk snow contracts and winter control contracts. Just your thoughts there, then maybe I'll ask another question based
Okay.
on your answer. Thanks.
So through you, your worship, to the councilor's question, snow control contracts. That was a contract that looked after a couple of parking lots. And I think it was the Finkel Street Bridge and I have a note. There were stairs on Raglan Street, I think. So we stopped doing that a few years back. And any of the parking lots have come into the parking lot snow removal contract, which is at the top of page 22. You can see under contracts, there's 80,000 on that one. And then the other one under winter control contracts, that's rental grader, rental loader that we have that we call in when we need that support. So that's more of our plowing activities and servicing the community that way.
So if I may, so just throwing this out there, but do you feel that you ever need more contracting for sidewalk snow removal?
So if we were going to do a service, depends upon the service level that we're going to provide. So if to answer the question, yes, but it is a council derived level of service, so it would be something that would come back here and you would make that decision. We meet minimum maintenance standards. Where we have challenges is and I've mentioned this to you before, is where we have filled in sidewalks, curb face sidewalks. So if we were going to provide a service where we could handle that, it would be through contracts because we don't have the staff in-house to deal with that at the same time that they're dealing with plowing the roads and dealing with sidewalks that we service, which are ones that are our priority sidewalks, which are backlotted ones that doesn't have a homeowner that looks after that lot, or ones that are on city frontages, things like that, where we actually are the ones that service those sidewalks.
Counselor Wheaton?
Thank you, through the chair. Page 20, we have the category 010101, it's training. Public Works training, some fairly large dollar items on training. Are these the courses that you were talking about that we're doing some catch up? No? Okay.
So
If
yeah, keep.
Yeah, we talked the other night about becoming an employer, being an employer of choice. And are there ways besides dollars and cents on wages to encourage our employees to, stay within the city employment? Is training and education a mechanism to achieve that in your department?
Thank you. Through the chair, to the councilor's question. I think that any training we can provide our staff helps build that professionalism. And anytime you build anyone's skills, I think it helps them be all they can be, so to speak. And that helps them provide value to them. And I think it does provide value back to us, and hopefully it helps retain those staff members. So I think it does have value.
Are these ones compliance training and licensed training, or?
So through you, your worship, to the council's question, this training is in our public works area. So it's kind of everything in public works. Most of it, a lot of it falls down to our winter training is a big chunk of it. That hits, we do operator training, patrol training. We have a fair amount of staff turnover as well. And every time we bring somebody in, there's, several days of training before we even get into a vehicle or go do anything. So there's a lot of training. If we could double the budget, you know, I don't think that I see our treasurer cringing over there with it. But yeah, anytime we can do training, I think it has value for sure.
Okay, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Here to Mr. Locke. On the flags, it's 4,600, and then the note says that the 4,600 will only be sufficient for repairs this year. Does that mean that if there's a flag there, that's it, and if damage, that's it, it will just come down? Or
Through you, your worship, we have one backup flag, and the new flags that we've procured recently are not, there's, I think the term was single stitch versus double stitch. We've already had to repair the new one. We're not seeing the quality. So when we go out, we're looking next year at likely either a capital ask for a couple of flags or some way of having some backup flags, because that is a really big flag. I think it's 40 feet by 20 feet, and it gets the wind loading on it is huge. So, but yes, we have a backup flag to answer your question.
Couldn't imagine the freezing rain on it. Like
Well,
last night.
we would have had it down for that.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Any other questions? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just on page 23, this is more or less just out of curiosity, through the chair to Mr. Locke. Private work, non-recovery and private work. What exactly do those mean? And do you have like an example per se that might be able to help me understand? Because I have talked, met with Mr. Creary and talked about a few things, and I thought I'd ask you for an example to maybe help me understand.
Right. So through you, your worship, to the councilor's question, private work non-recoverable is basically our special events when we're attending to assist on special events. I think that the overtime line there, you can see we assisted in Kalapalooza this year, and I think that was a big piece of that as well. And the private work recoverable, there's not, or private work, there's not much of that work that we do, and I'm coming up at a blank on that. Okay, so private work that is recoverable is ones that we can bill through. So as Warren's mentioned to me, police accidents, things like that, that we can charge back somewhere.
Thank you. If nothing else, we'll move along to waste, if that's good for everyone. So waste is 27 to 30. Any questions of council? Councillor Schattenberg.
Maybe just a comment from the Environment Advisory Committee to Dan Locke, but I see that the possible revenues for sale of recycled material and scrap metal and aluminum seems to be doing quite well right now. And that's good news because we want to recycle, but certainly be able to get revenues back for the amount that the municipal people are recycling.
Through you, your worship, to the councilor's comment. Yes, recycled materials commodity pricing is doing well right now. And we renegotiated a contract with our processor where we were 50-50 cost share. We both gained 50% back to an 85-15 cost sharing model where we get 85% of the revenue and they get 15. You will see some processing costs that went up with that model, but it's a pretty big win for us. You can see the account line that's in the year to date over 630,000. And so I'm a little conservative on putting a lot of money in because markets can be volatile. So just want to be respectful of that. And so, but yes, we did well this past year.
Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Can I just go back one page to page 24, which I missed? On the weed control part-time, and there's quite a jump in that. Why is that? That's 0103. It's the part-time.
Yeah, so through your worship to the councilor's questions, you can see that it's our part-time wages. This is our students that do our grass cutting for our cuts. And so the increase there is just offsetting trends that have occurred. And again, this is one of those ones where we looked at what the dollar figures are for where those part-time. So we did the full-time wages, but we did all wages. So we looked at where the part-time wages were being charged. We also moved those around a little bit. So it may not look right, but it'll likely be a better charge out in the future. So
More accuracy purposes.
Yeah,
for the future?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I assume no questions of waste then. We'll move along to sewer, page 36 and 37. Any questions of council? Seeing none, we'll move along. And water, we'll finish it off pages 38 to 42. Just might add for all of, especially water staff lately, appreciate their patience and everything is gonna be okay.
and I know they appreciate your support.
Any questions, pages 38 to 42 for water at all? Well, Mr. Luck, I think you're off the hook. Thank you so much. And again, thank you. And do me a favor, just thank all the staff for the last couple of nights, especially. They've been busy again. So next, I guess, is us. So we'll go to page, so this is under mayor, council, and committees. I'm gonna do this all together. So we're gonna go from page 105 to 110 to kind of finish off here. So just kind of go through each page and see if there's any questions of council. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your chair, I feel so funny asking this, but under my name here, it says $577.36 electronic, and then it cuts the word off.
Cell phone,
Okay, thank you so much.
no problem. Electronic communication, I believe, if I remember correctly, is what it spells out. Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Lauder.
Yes, I'm just going through the council sister city, and it's 8,000 for this year. Is that because there's going to be more people going, or just what's that?
Your worship, through the councillor Lauder, because of the pandemic, we did not budget anything for the past year, and with the pandemic restrictions lifting, we got caught off guard, and so there were actually some expenses incurred. So you do see something in the actuals. So the 8,000 is bringing it back to what the historical budget was before the borders closed and everything closed.
I may also add, you'll notice we did, I believe we did this on everybody right across the board, added $3,000 for training. Recognizing not only the increased costs of going to any conferences or anything else, but recognizing the opportunities there for some new counselors and some of us older ones to move along our knowledge as well. In case there's questions on that. Any other questions of council? Again, I'll ask for all pages 105 all the way through to 110. So council and committees, Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you through the chair, and I'm on page 107 under Bernia Wheaton, meetings and luncheons. I would offer up that could be taken out of the budget. I'm willing to shoulder that occasional expense. And if any other councillors wish to join me in that, I realize it is a very small savings in this budget, but want to send the message that I don't expect taxpayers to pay for a cup of coffee. If I need to meet with someone, I'm more than willing to pay for my own cup of coffee.
Certainly been customary for most of us anyways, but it's there for larger items. I've always interpreted that if there was an opportunity or something, but by all means. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Leatherborough.
I had a question about, so page 109 for the committees. So the accessibility committee, just some background on, in 2022, there was a $4,500 budget for, I think that's part-time wages. Again, it cuts it right off, so I can't see the full title. Nothing was spent, but I'm just curious what that is.
Your worship, through to Councillor Leatherbarrow, that was a summer student that was dedicated to making our website accessible. And so we haven't removed it from the budget. If you look back into the IT budget, you'll see a part-time wage in the 2023 budget that wasn't budgeted in 2022. So it is that same student. So we are proposing to continue that. It's just in a different location. And it's just under IT because in reality, last year with the hiring of the summer student under the committee, it was actually working alongside and as part of the IT team.
Councillor Wheaton.
Page 105, council subscriptions and memberships for $12,000. Is that municipal world? Are there other subscriptions under that category?
Your worship,
Yeah.
the question that is mostly AMO. I read that.
Any other questions of council? Councillor Leatherborough.
Just one more on page 110 for the Youth Advisory Committee. Councillor Wheaton's confirmed the word, which is Youth Advisory Committee miscellaneous, I think. It went over budget in 2022, so I was just wondering, was that committee active through COVID?
Your worship, through to Councillor Leatherbarrow, I'll answer that one and confess that this is where we actually spent some of the sister city money because we didn't have a budget.
I actually meant to bring that up because that is something we did talk about earlier. We caught that as well, but that's what it was. Yes. If no one else has any more questions. Okay. I think we got through it. Okay, Police Service Board, Public Library Board, and the Art Gallery Advisory Board will be presenting their budget at the regular meeting of council being held on March 2nd. Final approval of the revenue budget is scheduled for the regular meeting of council on March 16th. May or may not be my birthday. Perfect birthday present. Councilors are requested to forward their suggested amendments to council, the CAO, the city clerk, and the Director of Administrative Services by March 10th, 2023. Amendments can, of course, be brought forward to council floor on March 16th as well. Just to give staff the opportunity, we do ask that you try to give them a heads up ahead of time, if possible. Okay? And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Counselor Wheaton, seconded by Counselor Leatherborough. All those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, and thank you so much to all of staff. Those seats are not the most comfortable thing in the world. So thank